Chapter 826. Shi Yuchuan stroked his hedgehog hair, which he thought was stylish, and squeezed out a bright smile. He pretended to be a gentleman and opened the car door for little Ling. Then he gestured for her to get in. Don't talk nonsense. Let's set off as soon as possible. We still have business to attend to. Little Ling did not even look at the hedgehog hair. She sat in the car with a cold expression and said indifferently. She had always been disgusted by Shi Yuchuan. She always felt that he was up to no good. If it wasn't for the fact that her master had appointed the two of them to carry out the mission together, she would not have wanted to meet Shi Yuchuan alone. Yes, you're right. This matter concerns both our sections. We must take it seriously. Shi Yuchuan quickly nodded in agreement. However, his eyes kept wandering over little Ling's slim figure. He thought to himself, little hussy, why are you pretending to be pure in front of me? When you become my plaything in bed, I'll play with you until you die. Why aren't you driving? What are you waiting for? Little Ling could not help but frown after waiting for a long time for Shi Yuchuan to move. She asked unhappily. Oh, aren't we going to the highway later? I have to fasten my seatbelt. Shi Yuchuan slowly fastened his seatbelt. Suddenly, he thought of something and turned his head to ask politely, by the way, Miss Little Ling, are you thirsty? You've waited for so long. Are you hungry? I just bought a lot of your favorite drinks from the rest area. I also bought some snacks and biscuits. Little Ling was so angry that she was about to explode. Before Shi Yuchuan could finish, she angrily rebuked, stop nagging. Hurry up and drive. Okay. Don't be angry. Women age easily when they get angry. When that time comes, they won't be pretty anymore with wrinkles. What? Shi Yuchuan wanted to say something more. However, he suddenly felt a murderous gaze from the side. He could not help but shrink his neck. Shi Yuchuan started the sports car and turned it around. Their destination this time was Lan City. Therefore, they had to turn around and get back on the highway. When he got out of the car, Shi Yuchuan racked his brains. He tried to think of many topics to talk to Yiling. However, Yiling was lukewarm. She replied to him with a few words. Then she simply ignored him. So at this moment, the atmosphere in the car was very stiff. Shi Yuchuan was a little depressed in his heart. Damn it, I'm an outstanding talent in my sect. So many girls surround me every day, but I don't even look at them. You're just a little girl, and you have the nerve to show me face. Frustrated, Shi Yuchuan stepped hard on the accelerator. The Ferrari's engine roared, and the whole car sped forward. Shi Yuchuan, why are you driving so fast? Suddenly, Yiling felt a strong push on her back. She couldn't help but grip the door tightly with both hands as she shouted. She glanced at the dashboard and saw that the speed had reached 220. Oh, Miss Ling, aren't we in a hurry? That's why I want to drive faster so that I don't get in the way, right? Shi Yuchuan said without batting an eyelid. Yiling wanted to protest. However, she thought that she was indeed in a hurry. So she didn't say anything. Shi Yuchuan thought that Yiling would panic. Then he could take good care of her. He didn't expect that Yiling would say nothing after saying one sentence. In desperation, he could only continue to step hard on the accelerator. Not long after, Shi Yuchuan's eyes glanced not far away. Suddenly, it was as if he had discovered a new continent. He stared at a Volkswagen Jetta that was driving in the distance. His eyes turned and he suddenly thought of an idea. He turned the steering wheel and the whole Ferrari suddenly drove diagonally into the opposite lane. The tires made an ear-piercing screeching sound. Ah! Yiling was so shocked by the sudden turn of events that she screamed. Her whole body was stuck to the window. If it wasn't for the seatbelt on her body, she would have been thrown out of the car. When she came back to her senses, Yiling couldn't help but take a deep breath. She patted her chest with lingering fear. She didn't think that this behavior was cool at all. Instead, she angrily scolded, Shi Yuchuan, are you crazy? This is the wrong lane. Hurry up and drive back to the right lane. What are you trying to do? Nothing. Don't worry. I'm inviting you to watch a good show. It's very fun. The corner of Shi Yuchuan's mouth raised proudly. He turned on the xenon headlights and stepped on the accelerator. He directly increased the speed of the car to 250 kilometers per hour and rushed towards Xiao Chen's car. You're crazy. You must be crazy. Yiling stared dumbfounded at Shi Yuchuan's series of actions. She said in shock and anger, stop the car. I'm not taking your car anymore. I want to get out. However, Shi Yuchuan didn't seem to hear her. He had no intention of slowing down or stopping the car. Yiling gritted her teeth. She wanted to force open the door and abandon the car to escape. However, the car's central lock had long been locked. Yiling couldn't open it at all. Sure. Tuan. Yiling's eyes were about to spit fire. However, Shi Yuchuan said calmly, "Don't worry, Miss Yiling. Look, the idiot in the Jetta must be very frightened. Just wait and see him make a fool of himself." At this time, Shi Yuchuan had been blinded by the desire to perform. Just now he suddenly thought of a classic scene from a racing movie. He decided to imitate it for excitement. From his point of view, a person like Xiao Qin who drove a Jetta was definitely a mountain cannon that had never seen the world before. Seeing a Ferrari rushing over, he would definitely panic and turn the steering wheel in a flurry to avoid it. In the end, it was very likely that he would lose control and directly crash into the roadside fence. Even if Xiao Qin didn't have enough time to dodge and only instinctively wanted to brake, then with his own driving skills, coupled with the superb performance of the Ferrari, he would be able to dodge in time when the two cars met. There wouldn't be any risk at all. At that time, Yiling would not only be amazed by his driving skills, but she would also feel that he was calm and composed. She would also feel that he had the demeanor of a general. Thus, it was very possible that she would secretly fall in love with him and take a liking to him. As for Xiao Qin, who cared if he died? He might even pee his pants. If it wasn't for this little bastard wasting his time, he wouldn't have been scolded so badly by his goddess. Shi Yuchuan blamed Miss Yiling's anger on Xiao Qin. At this time, inside the Jetta, Xiao Qin angrily stared at the Ferrari that was rapidly approaching him. His face was gloomy. He was secretly annoyed. "Go to hell with your stupid hedgehog head. You're just a level 3 Marshal General cultivator, yet you're so cocky. Do you really think you're number 1 in the world? I've already let you off twice. If I don't teach you a lesson this time, you'll really think that I'm a pushover." After making up his mind, Xiao Qin first used his primordial energy to protect the car. Then he stepped on the accelerator and the car suddenly accelerated to 200 kilometers per hour. In an instant, the car crashed into the Ferrari. Before Shi Yuchuan could react, he heard a loud boom sound. In the blink of an eye, his car had an intimate contact with the other car. With a bang, the Ferrari's airbag came out and hit Shi Yuchuan in the face. Although Shi Yuchuan had the strength of a level 3 general realm cultivator, he was not mentally prepared. He was caught off guard and was hit by the airbag. His nose started to bleed. Yiling, who was sitting next to him, did not feel good either. Although she had taken precautions in advance, she was not as embarrassed as Shi Yuchuan. However, she was still dizzy. She felt as if her internal organs were constantly churning. She also felt waves of dizziness. After turning on the double flashing lights, Xiao Qin got out of the car to check. The front of the Ferrari had been smashed. It was a tragic sight to behold. His Jetta did not have much of a problem. However, the front bumper was slightly dented. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to see it. At this time, the door of the Ferrari opened. Shi Yuchuan struggled out of the airbag and stumbled out of the car. He swayed back and forth as if he was drunk. "TSK. Not only did you drive on the wrong side of the road, but you also recklessly hit my car. Are you trying to defy the heavens? Do you really think you're Superman?" Xiao Qin frowned as he looked at Shi Yuchuan unhappily. At this time, Yiling finally got out of the car. She ran to the side of the road and squatted down. She started to retch. She almost threw up her stomach. As he looked at Yiling's back, Xiao Qin shook his head and teased, "Oh, I was wondering why you were so capable. It turns out that there's a girl sitting next to you. Are you being dishonest now that you have a girl? Look, even your nose is bleeding. It seems that you've taken advantage of her. If you want to do something that is not suitable for children, you should go to the bushes. How can you do it on the highway? What the F***ck? Shi Yuchuan shook his buzzing head and finally sobered up a little. He lowered his head to look at his Ferrari, which was in a mess, and then looked at the undamaged Jetta. He was instantly dumbfounded. He thought that there was something wrong with his eyes. After rubbing them with all his might, he realized that the scene was still the same as before. Shi Yuchuan shouted in disbelief, "This is impossible. My car is a Ferrari 458. The front of my car is damaged. How can your broken car be fine?" What puzzled Shi Yuchuan the most was how a broken Jetta could accelerate at a speed of 100 meters per hour. Just now, he clearly saw that the distance between the two cars was quite far. It was enough for him to do anything. However, the result was that they collided. "What nonsense are you talking about? Did you knock your head silly? Who said that it's fine? Open your eyes and take a look." Xiao Qin pointed at the bumper of the Jetta and said angrily, "The paint on my bumper has been scratched off. There's even a big dent in it." "*CK. Is your Jetta an armored car? It's just a dent. Isn't it fine?" Shi Yuchuan rubbed his eyes again and said in disbelief. It was no wonder that he found it unbelievable. The main thing was that this matter was beyond his understanding. Chapter 827. Logically speaking, a low-end car like the Jetta that cost tens of thousands of yuan wasn't on the same level as a Ferrari. But the two cars collided and the front of the car was damaged. Logically speaking, the Jetta should have been smashed into pieces. But it was actually intact. Oh no, it only hit a dent. Why do you care if it was a real car or a fake one? Don't say those useless things. You can afford a sports car, but you don't know that sports cars can't withstand collisions? When a sports car collides, it can protect the passengers to the greatest extent, so the damage to the car body is more serious. Xiaoqun waved his hand and said plainly, "Okay, I'm done with my science. You were driving the wrong way and hit my car. You have to take full responsibility. Hurry up and pay me the money." Shi Yuchuan didn't seem to hear Xiaoqun's words at all. He went in front of the Jetta and studied it for a long time. He even reached out and touched it twice to confirm that he really wasn't hallucinating. Xiaoqun's legs were shaking as he said lightly, "Don't look at it anymore. My car doesn't have anything else except the bumper. It's the latest European technology. It costs 500,000 to change it. Since we met once before, I won't make it difficult for you. I'll give you a discount. You just have to pay me 490,000. Motherf asterisk her, are you kidding me? Changing the bumper costs 500,000? Do you really think I'm stupid? Shi Yuchuan suddenly jumped up and shouted while gritting his teeth, "Now my car is damaged and your car is fine. I still have to pay you money? Stop daydreaming. Besides, you deliberately accelerated to hit me. You were speeding. Do you know that?" Shi Yuchuan really couldn't think of a reason, so he could only use speeding as an excuse. It seemed that after his head was hit by the airbag, he was indeed completely stupid. He didn't even consider that he was driving the wrong way, and he still wanted to push the responsibility to Xiaoqun. I told you not to stop taking the medicine, but you didn't listen to me. You were recovering well and now you're retarded again?" Xiaoqun was speechless at Shi Yuchuan's IQ, so he could only sigh. What medicine?" Shi Yuchuan was stunned. Xiaoqun glanced at Shi Yuchuan and impatiently said, "Don't think about it. You can't figure it out with that brain of yours. I'm driving straight, so why do you care if I'm speeding or not? Hurry up and pay up. Otherwise I'll call the police. When the police come, even if I exceed the speed limit, they will only fine me a little. As for you..." Xiaoqun smiled faintly and spread his hands, making an expression that said, "You know what I mean. Stinking brat, are you trying to swindle me? You hit my car and you still dare to call the police? Do you really think I don't dare to beat you up?" Shi Yuchuan flew into a rage and waved his fist, ready to greet Xiaoqun. Xiaoqun didn't dodge. He looked at Shi Yuchuan calmly. As a result, Shi Yuchuan's fist only stretched out halfway before he retracted it. Shi Yuchuan wasn't stupid. At this time he realized that he was in the wrong. If he could scare the other party away, it would be fine. But if the other party didn't leave, he really couldn't beat them up so easily. Besides, his goddess was watching from the side, so he couldn't be too rude. He had to be gentlemanly. In desperation, Shi Yuchuan could only give up the idea of asking Xiaoqun to pay for the car. He threatened in a low voice, "All right. Seeing that you once said that I'm handsome, I'll let this matter go. Hurry up and get lost or I'll smash your broken car, do you believe me?" Previously at the gas station, when Shi Yuchuan said that he would smash the Jetta, Xiaoqun drove away obediently. He thought that his threat would work again this time, but he didn't expect the guy in front of him to still stand there motionless and sneer after listening to him. "Originally, if you said something nice, I would be in a good mood and maybe I wouldn't be bothered to argue with you. But now, with your attitude, if I don't make you pay 3 to 500,000 yuan, I'll be letting my car down." Xiaoqun snorted. "All right, stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and pay up or else." Before he finished speaking, Xiaoqun directly pushed the Ferrari with his palm. Immediately the entire car moved a few feet horizontally. The front of the car was smashed and a few pieces of metal fell off. At this time little Ling was no longer vomiting. She frowned and stood at the side, secretly looking at Xiaoqun. After a short period of rest, she felt much better. When she saw the scene of Xiaoqun pushing the car away, she couldn't help but be a little surprised. She didn't know Xiaoqun. She just felt that Xiaoqun's accent was a little familiar, but she couldn't remember where she had heard it before. However, Xiaoqun's face was completely unfamiliar. This made little Ling very confused. "I won't pay up. What can you do to me?" Shi Yuchuan didn't care about Xiaoqun at all and said indifferently. He felt that Xiaoqun probably moved bricks at the construction site often, so he was stronger than the average person. That was why he could push the Ferrari. Compared to his strength of a level 3 marshal general, It was nothing. Looks like you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Xiao Chen strode forward and grabbed Shi Yuchuan's collar. He forcefully lifted him up. "You, what are you doing? Let me go. How dare you?" Shi Yuchuan was furious. He continuously struggled, trying to escape from Xiao Chen's evil clutches. Xiao Chen waited for Shi Yuchuan to struggle for a while before he pushed him heavily, directly throwing him to the ground. Shi Yuchuan was struggling with all his might. Caught off guard, he was immediately thrown into a state of confusion. He couldn't tell which way was north for a long time. "You're asking for death." With great difficulty he stood up. He was so furious that he no longer cared about his demeanor. He threw a punch at Xiao Chen. However, Shi Yuchuan didn't use his true strength in this punch. After all, he was a level 3 martial general cultivator. Against an ordinary person like Xiao Chen, he didn't need to use his strength to deal with him. There was no need to use an anti-aircraft cannon to hit a mosquito and waste his energy. "You overestimate yourself." Xiao Chen smiled coldly and did not dodge. Instead, he casually struck out with his palm and directly met Shi Yuchuan's fist. "Ah! Do you really think that you can compete with me just because you have some strength? Really? What?" Shi Yuchuan's expression suddenly changed. It wasn't until he got closer that he felt a dangerous aura coming from Xiao Chen's body. God damn it, this Xiao Chen was actually an expert of the demon general level, just like him. A muffled sound rang out. Their fists and palms intersected. Shi Yuchuan was directly forced back a few steps by Xiao Chen's powerful energy. His entire arm was numb from the impact, and it hung by his side, trembling non-stop. Shi Yuchuan knew that things were not looking good. Ever since he had encountered the Jetta, he had had bad luck again and again. First, he had been electrocuted, then he had crashed his Ferrari, and now he had been tricked by this brat. If he hadn't sensed that something was wrong and immediately released his strength as a level 3 martial general to block the attack, he was afraid that his arm would have been crippled by Xiao Chen. Wah! Shi Yuchuan spat out a mouthful of black blood. Only then did he recover. With a face full of shock, he pointed at Xiao Chen and said, You have the strength of a level 1 demon general? What do you mean by soy sauce, yellow sauce, chili sauce? I don't even understand what you're talking about. Since you already know how powerful I am, don't be so long-winded. Hurry up and compensate me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Xiao Chen said expressionlessly as he flexed his wrists. Actually, Xiao Chen had purposely suppressed his level to that of a level 1 demon general in order to not expose his strength. "Ah, you're just a mere level 1 demon general. Do you really think that this young master is afraid of you? Take this 6-directional stone-crushing fist." Shi Yuchuan laughed arrogantly. In an instant, he released his strength as a level 3 martial general and used his sect's signature move. He clenched his fists and flew towards Xiao Chen. "What kind of rubbish fist technique is this? You dare to call it a stone-crushing fist with just this bit of power? I don't think you can even shatter a walnut." With a look of disdain, Xiao Chen shrugged his shoulders. He casually turned around and dodged the wind from Shi Yuchuan's fist. Then he lifted his leg and kicked directly towards his groin. Ouch! Shi Yuchuan was kicked several meters away. With a miserable howl, he fell to the side of the highway while clutching his buttocks. Blood instantly dyed his pants red. His flashy hedgehog head also deeply pierced into the mud. He felt that his buttocks had been seriously injured. His hair was stuck in the mud and could not be pulled out. If he exerted a little force, the wound on his buttocks would be affected. He could not help but wail, "Oh my God! My buttocks! Did they turn into King Sunflower?" What surprised Xiao Chen was that little Ling saw that Shi Yuchuan had suffered a big loss. However, she did not do anything. Instead, she continued to coldly watch from the side. She had no intention of helping. At this time, little Ling's mind kept thinking, "This Xiao Chen's accent is so familiar. Where have I heard it before? Wow. I'm so angry. Miss Ling, why are you still standing there? Why aren't you helping me take care of this guy?" Shi Yuchuan shouted agitatedly. "Shi Yuchuan, our mission this time is to work together to investigate the extraterrestrial meteoric iron and forging information. Master did not ask me to help you cause trouble." Linga looked at Shi Yuchuan with disdain and said coldly, "Also, put away the way you pick up girls, it's useless against me. What chrysanthemum, sunflower, this person is too disgusting." Little Ling was Granny Nanshan's disciple, Ling. She came to the secular world this time because her sect and Shi Yuchuan's 6-direction sect had reached an agreement. They were prepared to work together to investigate Xiao Chen's movements. Their goal was to obtain the extraterrestrial meteoric iron and forging information from Xiao Chen. When Xiao Qin heard Shi Yuchuan say the name Ling he was very shocked. At first he was not very sure. However, when he heard Ling speak, he immediately recognized her voice. Only then did he confirm her identity. She was the young lady who had begged him to save Granny Nanshan. However, what made Xiao Qin strange was that Ling had changed. She wasn't this beautiful before. That's right. Xiao Qin remembered that he had suspected that she was wearing a mask to hide her appearance. It seemed that her current appearance was her true appearance. Chapter 828. Looking at Linger's peerless beauty, Xiao Qin felt strange. Why did she hide her appearance? Wasn't she doing fine like this? Could it be that she had an unspeakable secret like him? Was that why she wore a mask to make it easier for her to move around? Yes, that was the only possibility. Linger also felt that Xiao Qin's voice was familiar because the two of them had met before. However, when they met, Xiao Qin always appeared as Xiao Chang and the White Fox, so she did not recognize Xiao Qin. At this time, Shi Yuchuan had already endured the pain and pulled his head out of the mud. However, when he heard what Linger said, he immediately felt very embarrassed. He was so embarrassed that he wanted to crawl back into the mud. He originally thought that with his strength as a level 3 martial general, taking care of Xiao Chen would be a piece of cake. He did not expect this guy to not only have a body full of strange strength, but he was also a level 1 demon general demon cultivator. In the end, not only did he repeatedly suffer losses, but he also damaged his image in the eyes of the goddess. The more Shi Yuchuan thought about it, the angrier he became. He raised his head and saw that Xiao Qin had his head lowered as if he was thinking about something. He rolled his eyes. Wasn't this a good opportunity for a sneak attack? Once again activating his chi, Shi Yuchuan attacked Xiao Chen with a punch. Brat, take this. 6 directional shattering. *CK. The reason why Shi Yuchuan immediately exclaimed was that he had failed again. Although Xiao Chen was immersed in his own thoughts, his powerful divine sense had already captured Shi Yuchuan's movements. Seeing that this non-mainstream with muddy hair wanted to sneak an attack on him, Xiao Chen casually released a fireball and threw it at him. It smashed right on his head. In the end, Xiao Chen did not forget to tease him. Your sect is quite interesting. They actually have a martial art called 6 directional shattering. Looks like I'll have to pay them a visit someday. Fire. Water. My hair. Shi Yuchuan's hair was instantly on fire. He shouted incoherently as he ran to his car in a panic. He found a bottle of mineral water in a flurry and poured it directly on his hair that was on fire. I'm sorry. My hand slipped and I burned the hedgehog head that you're so proud of. But I think your current style is pretty good. It has a bit of a performance art feeling. I didn't expect you to be an artist, Xiao Qin said with a smile. What he had just released was just an ordinary fireball, so the fire on Shi Yuchuan's head was quickly extinguished by the mineral water. However, the hair that was originally swaying with the wind was also burnt to a bald spot. Waiya, my hairstyle. Shi Yuchuan touched his messy hair, which made the 3-corpse god jump up and down in anger. He glared at Xiao Chen and said while gnashing his teeth, You are actually a 6th level devil general devil cultivator? Are you deliberately pretending to be a 1st layer demon general to trick me? Which sect are you from? Say it if you have the guts. I promise I won't beat you to death. Shi Yuchuan was also at his wit's end. Now that the other party's strength was higher than his, he couldn't beat the other party even if he wanted to, so he could only speak ruthlessly. If Ling could join forces with him to deal with Xiao Qin, he might have a chance of winning. However, Ling was just watching coldly from the side and didn't have the slightest intention of helping. Then it wouldn't be good for him to make a move alone. Could it be that he would go up and look for trouble? Why are you asking so much? What, do you want to bring people to my sect to cause trouble? Xiao Qin said indifferently with a mocking look on his face. Just now, he had disguised himself as a 6th level devil general. As a result, Shi Yuchuan was fooled for the second time. Xiao Qin felt that this guy's IQ wasn't 50, it should be -50. As long as you dare to say it, I dare to bring people to cause trouble. Let's see if you have the guts. Shi Yuchuan snorted coldly and stared fiercely at Xiao Qin. However, his half-bald hair didn't make him look threatening at all. However, Shi Yuchuan wasn't exaggerating. Although the 6 Direction sect behind him couldn't be said to be the best in the martial arts world, it was at least one of the top sections. If they really had a conflict with an ordinary sect like the Devil sect, they definitely wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Oh, I am young Master Xing who changes my name whenever I sit. As for which sect I'm from, your status is too low to know. However, I'm here to ask the Kuei Mountain sect for a favor. You're so smart, I'm sure you'll be able to guess my identity immediately, right? Xiao Qin shook his legs and said casually. He purposely pretended to be arrogant and conceited like young Master Xing. Since he was acting, he had to go all the way. You're from the Awakening Heaven sect? Shi Yuchuan's expression froze on his face. He was dumbfounded. Looking at the martial arts world, who didn't know how strong the Awakening Heaven sect was. A person of his status couldn't afford to offend the people inside. Otherwise he wouldn't even know how he died. Shi Yuchuan was very clear that although he was already considered an outstanding disciple of the martial arts world, even their sect leader wouldn't easily offend the people of the Awakening Heaven sect. There was no other reason but because the Awakening Heaven sect had always been the leader of the Devil sect. They were the most powerful existence in the martial arts world. Linger was also stunned. She didn't expect to meet a disciple of the Awakening Heaven sect in the secular world. Although her sect was considered to have some influence in the righteous sects, they still couldn't openly oppose the Awakening Heaven sect. However, she wasn't like Shi Yuchuan, who would believe a casual sentence from the other party. She was still sizing up this young Master Xing in front of her, feeling that he was a little strange. He felt familiar but she couldn't recognize him. Ding dong. You guessed correctly. At least you have some common sense. Xiao Qin nodded proudly and said condescendingly, since you already know my identity, then hurry up and take out the money. I don't have much patience. As he spoke, Xiao Qin thought to himself, as expected, the Awakening Heaven sect was the backing of the Kuei Mountain sect. No wonder that last Xing dared to brazenly come to the research institute to steal things. She didn't put them in her eyes at all. Don't think that I'm afraid of you just because you're from the Awakening Heaven sect. Shi Yuchuan tried his best to puff out his chest and embolden himself. He pretended to be calm and said, this young master is called Shi Yuchuan. I'm a disciple of the Six Harmonies sect of the martial arts world. Seeing that we're both from the martial arts world, I won't look for trouble with you. If others see it, they'll say that there's internal strife in the martial arts world. Don't try to get close to me. Who's talking about us? Just give me a straightforward answer. Are you going to compensate me or not? Xiao Qin was unmoved. He looked at Shi Yuchuan coldly and asked with a fireball in his hand. Don't release the fireball. Shi Yuchuan didn't expect that Xiao Qin wouldn't fall for his trick. He immediately panicked and searched his body for a long time. He took out a bank card and handed it over with trembling hands. But I didn't bring that much cash. There's still over 300,000 in this card. Why don't you take it first and owe the rest? I'll pay you back when I have the money? Shi Yuchuan couldn't help but be afraid. As the saying goes, the unreasonable are afraid of the reckless. If Xiao Qin set fire to him again, he wouldn't have a place to cry even if he wanted to. Oh, do whatever you want. Anyway, I already know that you're from the Six Directions sect. Even if you want to renege on the debt, it won't be that easy. Xiao Qin took the bank card and couldn't be bothered with him anymore. He turned back to his car and drove away. However, although Xiao Qin seemed indifferent, he was a little shocked. I didn't expect this guy to be from the martial arts world. Since Linger is with him, doesn't that mean that she's also from the martial arts world? Xiao Qin was very confused. Why are people from the martial arts world appearing so frequently in the secular world? Didn't I hear that they can't enter and leave as they please? Could it be that it's really like what Ling Tian said? They're all here for the meteoric metal and the forging materials? Pay. Seeing the Jetta gradually disappear from his sight, Shi Yuchuan snorted and said with disdain, so what if you're from the Qi Tian sect? Don't let this young master see you again. You're just a pretty boy. How dare you call yourself young master Xing your balls? At this time little lass Xing was cultivating in the sect. Suddenly she sneezed heavily. She was confused. With my body I don't think I'll get sick? Could it be that there's someone who doesn't want his life and is bad-mouthing me behind my back? Ling stood at the same spot and lowered her head in thought. The tone of the person who called himself young master Xing sounded really familiar. However, she didn't recognize his face. Could it be that the two of them met once during the Martial Arts World Summit? So she had an impression of him? Shi Yuchuan thought that Ling was angry that he didn't fight her head-on and hurriedly said, Miss Ling, don't be angry. I'm just thinking about our mission. After all, we're in a hurry, aren't we? If not for the fact that we're in a hurry, I would have killed him. Are you going to stand on the highway like this to complete our mission? Seeing Shi Yuchuan still scolding her, Linger's anger flared up and she said coldly, Now that your car has been destroyed, if we don't hurry to Lan City, our mission will be delayed. What do you plan to do? Ling was about to die of depression. She felt that she was too unlucky. Why did she have to deal with an idiot like Shi Yuchuan? Not only was he weak, his intelligence was low too. Furthermore, he loved to stir up trouble. While that young Master Xing was a disciple of the demon sect, he was still reasonable. Linger was puzzled. Why did I subconsciously compare these two people? This is too strange. Miss Ling, don't be anxious. This is not a problem at all. I can call a car over immediately. This place is very close to Lan City. I'll get someone to pick us up. Shi Yuchuan patted his chest and said. Seeing that Linger had turned her face away and ignored him, Shi Yuchuan felt a little embarrassed. He hurriedly took out his phone and pressed it a few times. Then he placed it by his ear and said loudly, Hey hey hey, is this little Zheng? Yes, I'm your brother Shi. I'm near the Hong Pao Gang Highway's toll gate. Hurry up and pick up your sister-in-law and me. Cut the crap and hurry up. If you're late, I'll cut you up. Chapter 829. Who's your sister-in-law? Don't talk nonsense. When Linger heard this, she frowned and said with a look of disdain. However, Shi Yuchuan had already hung up the phone. We're so close. It's only a matter of time. Shi Yuchuan put away his phone and said with a smile. Linger glared at him fiercely. She really didn't want to talk to such a stupid person. Not long after, a Lamborghini Batmobile drove over and stopped abruptly beside the two of them. A young man jumped out of the car and ran over. He said to the two respectfully, Hello, brother Shi. Hello, sister-in-law. Why didn't you tell me in advance that you were coming? I could have sent someone to pick you up earlier. Miss Ling, let me introduce you to each other. This is Zheng Shiding, a collateral descendant of the Zheng family in the Wulin world. He's helping to manage the business in the secular world. Shi Yuchuan patted Zheng Shiding's shoulder and said proudly, The Zheng family is also the spokesperson of our Luha sect in the Wulin world. And this Zheng Shiding's family can be considered as my little brother. Oh, hello. Linger nodded to show that she had greeted him. Zheng Shiding was so excited that his neck turned red when Shi Yuchuan patted him on the shoulder. After a while, he calmed down and asked in confusion, By the way, brother Shi, why are you and sister-in-law here? Why don't you go on the highway? He thought to himself, could it be that people in the Wulin like to walk? Could it be that this was a new cultivation method? Don't mention it. I get angry just talking about it. Shi Yuchuan's face darkened. He pointed to the Ferrari not far away and said angrily, I drove here. Zheng Shiding was stunned. There's a car here? Then why did you ask me to pick you up? He subconsciously glanced at the Ferrari and immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. This Ferrari is simply too horrible to look at. Its head is all smashed up. Did you get into a car accident? Zheng Shiding stammered. Logically speaking, Shi Yuchuan's driving skills shouldn't be this bad, right? I just met a guy called Young Master Xing from the Wulin world. That brat is very arrogant. Not only did he damage my car, but he also set fire to my hair. I even lost my hairstyle. Shi Yuchuan gritted his teeth and said, When I go back, I must report this matter to the sect and teach him a lesson. Since Young Master Xing was no longer around, Shi Yuchuan naturally pushed all the blame onto him in order to save some face for himself. Otherwise, wouldn't he be looked down upon by his little brother? Seeing Shi Yuchuan distorting the truth, Linger couldn't help but frown, but she still turned her face away and didn't say anything. Where did this brat come from? He even dares to provoke brother Shi. He's too bold. Zheng Shiding shouted indignantly, then took out the car key and handed it to Shi Yuchuan. Brother Shi, if you don't mind, you can use my car first. I've already prepared a banquet at home. Let's talk while we eat. After that, Zheng Shiding immediately took out his mobile phone, made a call, and asked someone to drive another car over. After all, the Lamborghini could only seat 2 people. He couldn't run back. Not bad. You really know how to do things. Shi Yuchuan took the key with satisfaction. Zheng Shiding was indeed on the right track. His car wasn't worse than the Ferrari. Although he said on the surface that he would let Shi Yuchuan drive first, wasn't it equivalent to giving Shi Yuchuan a free car? But looking at his Ferrari, Shi Yuchuan was still a little reluctant. He hesitated and said, Then this car. Zheng Shiding instantly understood what Shi Yuchuan meant. He quickly patted his chest and said, Brother Shi, don't worry. I'll send your Ferrari to the 4S shop for repair. I guarantee that it will be returned to you in its original state. Shi Yuchuan responded with an N. He felt greatly honored, and his attitude towards Zheng Shiding was much warmer. The Zheng family came very quickly. Zheng Shiding said a few words to them, then led Shi Yuchuan to his own villa, leaving the scrapped Ferrari for them to deal with. On the way to the Zheng family, Shi Yuchuan couldn't wait to make a phone call to his own sect. He reported the misdeeds of young Master Xing to the elders. He even added oil and vinegar to it, pushing all the blame away. Although he didn't dare to take revenge on the spot, it wasn't a problem for his sect to spread the news. Linger rolled her eyes as she listened. Originally, Shi Yuchuan was the one who was being cocky, insisting on going against the other party. Unfortunately, he had kicked an iron plate. Now that he had said it, it was the other party who had provoked him first, which was unforgivable. Shi Yuchuan didn't care so much. He was humiliated. How could he just let it go like that? Since that young Master Xing had offended him, he wouldn't be able to rest. As expected, after Elder Gu of the Six Directions faction heard Shi Yuchuan's complaint, he immediately flew into a rage. After putting down the phone, he immediately ordered his disciples to spread the news that young Master Xing of the Awakening Heaven sect was tyrannical in the secular world. He was arrogant and despotic. Not only did he crash someone's car for no reason, he even dared to hit someone. Then he actually walked away as if nothing had happened. Young Master Xing's actions caused a huge impact in the secular world. It was simply a disgrace to the inner martial arts world. Nobody knew what he was doing in the secular world. In any case, the Awakening Heaven sect was already a big tree that attracted the wind. They had long become the public enemy of the inner martial arts world. Therefore, the Six Directions faction didn't mind creating a few more rumors and splashing dirty water on the Awakening Heaven sect. Moreover, Shi Yuchuan's words were very convincing. It was very likely to be the truth. Under the strong push of the Six Directions faction, this news quickly spread throughout the inner martial arts world. Little Xing, what are you doing? Didn't I tell you to plan before taking action? Why did you create such a big commotion? After Elder Sun received the news, he immediately found Little Xing and reprimanded her. Little Miss Xing was baffled. She had just received the news and couldn't make heads or tails of it. When did I crash a car and hit someone? He had clearly come back without a sound. Elder Sun didn't wait for Little Xing to open her mouth to explain. He once again sternly interrupted her. Even if you want to deal with others, you should remember those methods. Now, not only did you not eliminate the root of the problem, you even gave others a reason to talk about it. Our Awakening Heaven sect was already the target of public criticism. You even added snow to the fire. What nonsense! Little Xing cried out in grievance. She shook her head and said, Elder Sun, calm down first. Don't you understand me? I don't usually drive. Moreover, our Awakening Heaven sect and the Six Directions faction have never crossed paths. I don't have any grudges with their disciples. Why would I provoke them for no reason? It turned out that Little Xing once encountered a car accident when she was a child. It buried a lot of psychological trauma in her childhood. Although she was already at the Demon King level 10 great perfection, she would still have psychological panic after sitting in a car for a long time. She would get carsick, so she usually walked most of the time. Elder Sun frowned. He also found it strange. If that's the case, why would they spread such rumors? They even made it sound so real. It doesn't seem to be made up at all. Little girl Xing thought about it, but she couldn't make heads or tails of it. She gloomily asked, Elder Sun, where did this news come from? She was pondering whether someone was deliberately trying to frame her. But it's useless. It's just smearing my image. What's the use? Now the entire inner martial arts world is abuzz with this news. I can't find the source of the rumor at all. Elder Sun waved his hand and didn't intend to be entangled on this topic. Forget it. The sect will block this matter for you first. There shouldn't be any trouble for the time being. Now there is a more important matter to tell you. Little Xing nodded helplessly. Elder, please speak. According to reliable information, the Extreme Ice sect has already started to take action. They sent people to deal with Xiaoqian. You should prepare as soon as possible. If the people from the Extreme Ice sect succeed, you should disrupt it. If they don't succeed, you should secretly add fuel to the fire and let more sects join in. In short, you can't let Xiaoqian have an easy time. It's best to put him in danger. Elder Sun instructed in a deep voice. Okay, I'll do it now. Little Xing pulled herself together and nodded. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, Elder Sun's serious voice came again. Remember, don't leave anything for others to talk about. Otherwise, if things get out of hand, our Awakening Heaven sect will also be in trouble. Elder Sun was still a little worried and couldn't help but exhort her. Understood. Little Xing's shoulders immediately slumped and she absent-mindedly answered. She dragged her feet and walked back. Her mind started to think about where she went wrong. Logically speaking, in the inner martial arts world, no one should know that she went to the secular world. Even if they knew that the news of Xiao Qin carrying forging materials was released by the Awakening Heaven sect, they definitely wouldn't think that it had anything to do with her. There were so many people in the Awakening Heaven sect. Why would they think of her? Little Xing was really puzzled. What was going on? Could it be that Night Island Gui Fu leaked the news? That can't be. I have no enmity with him in the past. He shouldn't be so bold as to betray me, right? Moreover, even if he wanted to betray me, there was no way he could contact other people in the inner martial arts world. He was still counting on me to send him cultivation manuals next time. How would he dare to offend me? That was really strange. That night, little Xing couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned in bed. She couldn't figure it out even after thinking for a whole night. She could only inexplicably suffer in silence. She was extremely depressed. When Shi Yuchuan and Ling arrived at Lan City and the Zheng residence, it was already midnight. The two of them could only follow Zheng Shiding's arrangements and stay in the Zheng residence. They planned to deal with the sect's mission the next day. Even if they wanted to investigate now, they didn't know where to start. Chapter 830. At first, Zheng Shiding even found a guest room with a king-sized bed, but he was almost thrown out by Ling. Shi Yuchuan tried his best to persuade them, and finally they slept in two separate rooms. The next morning the two woke up early. After stuffing themselves with some breakfast, they asked someone to find Zheng Shiding to ask about him. At this time the people of the Zheng family also received the news from Zheng Shiding. They knew that people from the sects of the internal martial arts world had come. One by one they rushed over and warmly entertained them. They forced the two of them to eat breakfast again. This made Shi Yuchuan feel very honored. He almost forgot that he was here to do business. Brother Shi, is there something important that you came back to Lan City? If there's anything I can help you with, please let me know. Although I don't have much ability, I still have some say in Lan City. Zheng Shiding said after breakfast, patting his chest. For Zheng Shiding, it was a great honor to be able to serve Shi Yuchuan once. Shi Yuchuan was an outstanding disciple of the Wulin sect. If he could serve him well, he would be rewarded with a move or elixir. Wouldn't he be rich? Even if he didn't, the Zheng family's influence in the secular world would rise, and the main family of the Wulin sect would not dare to look down on them. Oh, it's actually not a big deal. This time your sister-in-law and I came to Lan City to investigate a person called Xiao Qin. I wonder if you've heard of him? Shi Yuchuan picked his teeth with a toothpick as he asked casually. The top of his head had been shaved smooth and glossy. Shi Yuchuan felt that although the Zheng family had served him well, the secular world was still the secular world. Its level was too low, and there was no need to tell them that he was here to investigate the meteoric iron and forging materials. It would not do them any good if they knew. Moreover, the Wulin sect usually did not pay much attention to the secular world. They had only heard of the name Xiao Qin, but had no information about him. They only vaguely knew that Xiao Qin seemed to be the deputy director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Therefore, Shi Yuchuan only wanted the Zheng family to help investigate this information. Xiao Qin. Zheng Shiding was stunned for a moment and then hesitated. After thinking for a while, he asked tentatively, Brother Shi, do you know this person? No, my ass. If I wanted to know him, would I need to ask you? I'm here to investigate this guy. Shi Yuchuan rolled his eyes impatiently, feeling a little suffocated. If it wasn't for the fact that he had to investigate Xiao Qin's information, he wouldn't have embarrassed himself in front of Ling. This Zheng Shiding was asking all sorts of questions. Oh, wait a moment, Brother Shi. Zheng Shiding felt as if a huge stone had been lifted from his heart. He was wild with joy and ran back to his room. Not long after, he came back with a document and handed it over in a flattering manner. Brother Shi, take a look. This is Xiao Qin's information. Everything about him is recorded in it. How could Zheng Shiding not have heard of Xiao Qin? Of course he knew about Xiao Qin's background. So, as soon as the other party asked, he could immediately take out the information. Previously, in the school cafeteria, he was taught a lesson by Ling Qinyu's personal expert. He fainted for a long time before he recovered. He was also surrounded by the school's teachers and students, and rumors were flying everywhere. For the next few days when he walked on the road, people looked at him strangely. It was so embarrassing. Zheng Shiding was resentful, so he found someone to investigate the identity of this personal expert and tried his best to teach him a lesson. But after investigating, he was dumbfounded. The so-called school bell's personal expert turned out to be the deputy director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. His name was Xiao Qin. Zheng Shiding was discouraged. He didn't dare to openly go against the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Otherwise they could just move their fingers and turn the whole Zheng family upside down. He could only hide his hatred for Xiao Qin in the bottom of his heart, swallow his broken teeth and accept his bad luck. But now, when he heard that Shi Yuchuan wanted to deal with Xiao Qin, Zheng Shiding knew that his chance had come, so he quickly told him everything he knew. "Oh? Why do you have Xiao Qin's information? Could it be that the two of you have some history?" Shi Yuchuan was a little surprised. He was just asking casually, but he didn't expect to ask the right person. He picked up the information. It would have been fine if he didn't look at it, but when he looked at it he almost exploded. "Damn. Isn't this the guy who crashed my Ferrari? He's actually Xiao Qin." Ling Er was originally sitting at the side, but when she heard that, she was also stunned. She subconsciously looked over and realized that the photo of Xiao Qin on the information in Shi Yuchuan's hand was exactly the same as the guy who called himself Young Master Xing on the highway. She was a little puzzled. Logically speaking, she had indeed never seen this Xiao Qin before, but why did she keep feeling that his voice was very familiar? Could it be that she had mixed up his voice with someone else's? That was a little possible. There were too many people in the world who had similar voices. Actually, I did have some history with Xiao Qin. Previously in school. Zheng Shiding was a little embarrassed, but he still told the story of how he was taught a lesson by Xiao Qin. But in his mouth, it became a story of an unscrupulous bully bullying the school belle, and he tried his best to protect her but was knocked unconscious. Damn. This idiot really likes to cause trouble everywhere. Shi Yuchuan heard Zheng Shiding's complaint and suddenly felt like they were in the same boat. Zheng Shiding nodded and asked, "Brother Shi, is this the person you're looking for?" "That's right. Since this idiot is Xiao Qin, then the person I'm going to deal with is him. Just nice, I can also help you vent your anger." Shi Yuchuan stared at Xiao Qin's photo and said fiercely. His eyes were about to spit fire, and he cursed in his heart, "Mother ****. What young master Xing your ass. So this guy is Xiao Qin. You caused me to suffer such a big loss because of him. Brother Shi, you're too good to me." I'm relieved with Brother Shi's words. Zheng Shiding first thanked him with joy, then gritted his teeth and said, "If I hadn't heard that Xiao Qin has the strength of a demon general, I would have killed him long ago." Isn't that right? I fought with this guy before and he was so bad that he only revealed his strength of a demon general level 6 in the end. Shi Yuchuan slapped his thigh and sighed. Zheng Shiding opened his mouth again. "Oh right, Brother Shi, I heard that Xiao Qin has the Supernatural Investigation Bureau backing him up." Shi Yuchuan waved his hand and interrupted Zheng Shiding. He said with a face full of disdain, "Don't be afraid of that ***T Supernatural Investigation Bureau, they can't control the sex of the martial arts world. The key is that Xiao Qin is too cunning, I have to plan well." Zheng Shiding was really ecstatic this time. Although the Zheng family was considered powerful in Lan City, they didn't dare to go against the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Now that he had the support of the Six Harmony sect of the martial arts world, he could get his revenge immediately. However, Shi Yuchuan was a little annoyed at this time, thinking to himself, if I knew that young Master Xing was Xiao Qin, then I wouldn't have alerted him. Instead, I would have built a good relationship with Xiao Qin and waited for an opportunity to steal the meteoric iron and forging information. It seemed like this was a mistake. If that's the case, I can only take my time and think of other ways to get close to Xiao Qin. After all, his and Ling Er's sects weren't too strong, so they joined forces this time to see if there was a chance to avoid the eyes of the other sects and secretly attack Xiao Qin. Originally, Shi Yuchuan had planned that if Xiao Qin wasn't as strong as him, then he would brazenly snatch the item. However, if Xiao Qin was too strong, Shi Yuchuan planned to let Ling Er sacrifice her body to charm Xiao Qin first, then wait for him to be infatuated and lose his mind, then he would take the opportunity to steal it. But now, it seemed like both plans weren't going to work. Shi Yuchuan was really annoyed. Since you have such a great treasure, why don't you just keep a low profile? Driving a Volkswagen Jetta and acting like a loser, yet going against him at the same time. Are you so bored that your balls hurt? After carefully thinking for a while, Shi Yuchuan felt that he should first report the current situation to the elders of the sect, and then decide what to do next. Therefore he sent Zheng Shiding away first, then took out his phone and dialed the elder's number. "Yuchuan, how is it? Have you found Xiao Qin's information? Did that young Master Xing come back to cause trouble for you?" A stern voice came from the other end of the phone. "Reporting to Elder Gu, I found Xiao Qin's information, but there's a small problem. Xiao Qin and that young Master Xing are the same person. Ling Er and I were both tricked by him," Shi Yuchuan said carefully, afraid that Elder Gu would scold him. "What nonsense is this? How did Xiao Qin get involved with young Master Xing? Speak clearly." Elder Gu felt a little dizzy and asked in astonishment. It's like this, I just got Xiao Chen's information from the secular Zheng clan. The photo of Xiao Chen is exactly the same as the young Master Xing I saw yesterday. That's why I said that. Shi Yuchuan's tone was low. Thinking about how he was fooled by Xiao Chen for so long, he was about to explode. Really? Such a coincidence? Elder Gu thought for a while, then said in a low voice, how about this? I'll send someone to release the information you said and see how Qitian sect reacts. Don't act rashly, stay in the Zheng clan for the time being and wait for further instructions from my side. Understood, then I'll have to trouble Elder Gu. Shi Yuchuan hung up the phone and shook his head helplessly. Elder Ji's tone was unfriendly. It seemed that he would inevitably be scolded when he returned. Ling Er was silent at the side. She already knew what was going on. In her opinion, Shi Yuchuan was too insolent, which caused him to miss out on Xiao Chen. Her resentment towards Shi Yuchuan increased by a lot. Elder Gu acted quickly, and it didn't take long for the Six Harmonies sect to spread the news. Chapter 831. Before the storm of young Master Xing's arrogant and evil deeds in the secular world had subsided, there was suddenly another heavy bomb. Moreover, the source of the news was a little vague. It only said that the domineering person in the secular world had become Xiao Chen. As for how young Master Xing became Xiao Chen, it was vague and no one knew. When the two pieces of news were combined, the situation became even more complicated. As the news spread, there were even more versions. Some said that young Master Xing and Xiao Chen were in cahoots. Some said that young Master Xing was Xiao Chen himself. There were even people who said that Awakening Heaven sect was playing a big game of chess. For a moment, the entire martial arts world was boiling. Rumors flew everywhere. In the end, conspiracy theories, face-changing theories, and twin theories all came out. As for little Miss Xing, she was naturally reprimanded severely. Unfortunately, she couldn't explain herself. She couldn't explain herself even if she wanted to. She was about to go crazy with anger. After asking around a few times, she heard that the source of the news came from the Six Directions sect. No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't understand it. She was already beginning to suspect that it was Xiao Chen's doing. But when did Xiao Chen secretly contact the Six Directions sect? That's not right. Xiao Chen was obviously a demonic cultivator. How could he be related to a righteous person? Even if he wanted to use the Six Directions sect to attack Awakening Heaven sect, they might not be willing. Moreover, these rumors seemed to be without rhyme or reason. What was going on? After thinking about it until her brain was boiling, little Miss Xing still couldn't figure out the reason. However, she still felt that there was definitely a shadow of Xiao Chen in this. Little Miss Xing had no choice but to curse in her heart. Damn Xiao Chen. Smelly Xiao Chen. You better pray that you will never fall into my hands. If I meet you one day, I will twist your entire body into the shape of a bow. Then I will hang you outside Awakening Heaven sect's door for 100 days. I will whip your corpse every day with a barbed whip. At this time, Xiao Chen was still driving on the highway. Suddenly, he sneezed a few times in a row. He suddenly felt somewhat inexplicable. Could it be that he had been driving for a few days in a row, and his body couldn't take it anymore? In any case, he had just become a demon king. He shouldn't be that weak, right? Seeing that the sky was getting dark again, Xiao Chen did not plan to drive at night. He simply found a hotel to stay in. He planned to rest for the night and continue his journey tomorrow. Late at night, a few figures in ancient costumes suddenly appeared near the hotel, led by two old men. One of the old men looked at the hotel and the surrounding environment and asked with a gloomy face, "Have you found out everything?" Xiao Chen is staying in this hotel? Replying to Elder Fong, we have already checked. Xiao Chen is staying in room 325 of this hotel. The car outside is his. One of the young disciples nodded and pointed at the black Jetta outside the hotel. All right. Go and puncture the tires of that car to prevent Xiao Chen from taking the opportunity to escape. Everyone else follow me. After Elder Fong assigned the young disciple, he waved his hand and led the rest of the people to the hotel. At this time, Xiao Chen was cultivating in his room. He had no idea that the people from Extreme Eye sect had come to find him. As he was cultivating, the phone in the room suddenly rang. Xiao Chen was slightly stunned and frowned. However, he still picked up the phone. Hello, Mr. Xiao. This is the hotel's front desk. There are a few guests looking for you in the lobby downstairs. Please come down. On the other end of the phone, the receptionist reported softly and hung up the phone. Who is looking for me? Strange. Could it be a prank? Xiao Chen was a little puzzled. When the phone first rang, he thought it was a call from the special service woman who had lost her footing. He did not expect it to be the receptionist. Someone is looking for me? Who could it be? Logically speaking, only Ling Tian would know about his mission this time around. For someone to actually find him in the middle of the night, could it be as Ling Tian had said? Someone was eyeing the item in his hands and was preparing to snatch it away? After thinking for a while, Xiaoqun decided to go down and take a look. Whether it was a blessing or a curse, he could not avoid it. Even if he did not go down, the other party would definitely find him. Furthermore, with his current strength, there was no need for him to be afraid. Xiaoqun also wanted to see who would be the first to eat crabs. Arriving at the lobby downstairs, Xiaoqun saw two old men with their hands behind their backs. Behind them, there were a few young men standing majestically in the middle of the lobby. The receptionist was nowhere to be seen. These people were all dressed in ancient clothing. Their long robes fluttered in the wind and they gave off the impression of immortals. Thankfully, it was the middle of the night and there were no customers in the lobby. Otherwise, those who did not know better would have thought that they were filming a time travel drama. Xiaoqun, I thought you would hide in your room like a tortoise. I didn't expect you to have some guts. Elder Fang said coldly as a hint of killing intent flashed across his eyes when he saw Xiaoqun. Are you all sick? Are you cosplaying? Why aren't you sleeping in the middle of the night? Why are you here in ancient clothing? Just to see if I have guts? Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Xiaoqun rolled his eyes in annoyance. He turned around and was about to leave when he was blocked by another old man. Stop right there. Elder Liao waved his sleeves and raised his chin arrogantly as he looked at Xiaoqun. He slowly walked closer. Do you still remember Leng Youxiang and Qin Yuhan? They are disciples of my extreme ice sect. You should have expected this kind of result when you dared to attack them in the beginning. Today, Elder Fang and I came here to take revenge for them. What Leng Yuhan? Qin Youxiang? I've never heard of them. What ailment sect? I think their names are pretty good. You people from the ailment sect are really sick. Xiaoqun said mockingly. Deep down he was amused. These people were obviously here to steal the forging materials. Why did they have to talk about avenging their disciples? Everyone knew what was going on, so what was the point of putting on an act? You. Elder Liao had a high position in the sect, and no one had ever dared to speak to him like this. He was so angry that his whole body trembled and he fiercely said, Don't try to talk big. Do you think you can still run away? Xiaoqun waved his hand impatiently. Are you done? If you're done, I'm leaving. As soon as he finished speaking, he walked toward the elevator without even looking at Elder Liao. Elder Liao almost went crazy from being ignored by Xiaoqun. He was about to slap Xiaoqun to death when Elder Fang saw that the situation was not good. He quickly yelled, Go. Take this kid down. Elder Liao snapped out of his daze. Only then did he realize his mistake. He had yet to obtain the forging materials, so he couldn't just kill Xiaoqun just like that. Who knew if this guy was playing tricks and hid the materials? If he killed him later, there would be no way for him to find the materials. With this thought in mind, Elder Liao immediately retreated to the other side of the hall, blocking off Xiaoqun's escape route. He was going to leave the killing to the juniors and take care of the rest. Yes, sir. The disciples of the extreme ice sect were waiting for this sentence. Hearing this, they all yelled and flew over to surround Xiaoqun. The disciples that Elder Fang and Elder Liao had brought were basically all first-layer demon generals. They could be considered as the elite disciples of the sect, but they lacked experience. Now that they had this opportunity, the two elders decided to bring these disciples over to temper themselves. It could also be considered as gaining some experience. Because of this, these disciples were very arrogant. When they saw that Xiaoqun was young, they didn't think much of him. They exchanged glances with each other and revealed arrogant expressions. One of them, who seemed to be the leader, took a step forward. Just as he was about to say a few harsh words, Xiaoqun spoke. Even if you want to give me experience points, you should at least do it yourself, right? How can these small fries be enough? They're not even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Xiaoqun threw a few fireballs at the disciples, then turned around and said to Elder Fang and Elder Liao. The fireballs seemed to have eyes. Even though the disciples dodged, they still landed on their bodies and started to burn. The disciples wanted to put out the fire, but the moment they raised their hands, the fire had already spread to their bodies. They didn't even have time to let out a scream before they were instantly burned to ashes. Elder Fang and Elder Liao were shocked. They almost thought that they had seen wrong. The disciples that came with them were all seedlings that the sect had put in a lot of effort to nurture. Even if they were the ones guiding them, it would take a lot of effort. They did not expect Xiaoqun to kill all of them with just one move. You're just a sixth-layer demon general. How dare you act so rashly in front of me? Elder Fong reacted quickly. He snorted coldly and activated his mental cultivation method. He released the strength of a ninth-layer demon general. Just now, he could clearly feel that the strength that Xiao Qin had just released was the same as what was written in the information Devil General Level 6. Therefore, Elder Fong subconsciously thought that Xiao Qin must have used some kind of evil technique to be able to instantly annihilate all their disciples in one move. After all, as far as he knew, how could a sixth-layer demon general defeat so many first-layer demon generals in one move? It was completely impossible. You're a ninth-layer demon general. Xiao Qin pretended to be surprised. Earlier, he had intentionally suppressed his cultivation to the sixth layer of the Devil General realm. After all, he had no idea how strong Elder Fong and Elder Liao were, so he did not want to reveal his true strength. He wanted to probe them first. Ha ha ha. Elder Fong laughed maniacally and said arrogantly, "At least you have good eyesight. I won't make things difficult for you. As long as you obediently hand over the meteoric iron and the forging information, I will let you go today and spare your life. Otherwise..." Elder Fong did not finish his sentence. However, his meaning was very clear. "Didn't you say that you are here to avenge that cold and fragrant guy? Why do you want my things now?" Xiao Qin asked blankly. His tone was full of confusion and doubt. Chapter 832. Cough cough. Elder Fong almost choked. Is this Xiao Qin really stupid or is he pretending to be? However, seeing that Xiao Qin did not show any strong resistance, Elder Fong did not want to fall out with him. He coughed twice and said, "Well, if you can hand over the meteoric iron and the forging materials, it will mean that you have shown enough sincerity to repent to our extreme ice sect. I will pass the materials to the sect leader on your behalf and ask for his forgiveness." Really? You're not lying to me, are you? Will you wait for me to hand over the materials and then kill me? Xiao Qin continued to play dumb with his innocent eyes. Although he already knew Elder Fong's strength, there was still Elder Liao who was eyeing him like a tiger watching its prey. If Elder Liao's strength was on par with his, it would be difficult to deal with the two of them working together. Of course, I will do what I say. Elder Fong nodded sanctimoniously and cursed in his heart, "You idiot. When I get the item, I will naturally kill you immediately. You have killed so many of our elite disciples. How can we let you live?" Then what about him? If you don't kill me, will he listen to you? Which one of you can make the decision? Xiao Qin asked hesitantly as he pointed at Elder Liao who was standing beside him. Elder Fong and Elder Liao exchanged glances with each other, and sparks could be seen flashing in their eyes. Elder Liao was also unwilling to let Elder Fong take all the credit, but the situation was not in his favor. If he did not cooperate, it was very likely that he would not be able to get anything at all. After pondering for a while, Elder Liao came up with an idea. He said directly, "Of course I will listen to Elder Fong. You can give him the materials. I will not do anything." After saying that, he deliberately walked a little further away to show that he was fair. Elder Liao planned to discuss the distribution of the credit with Elder Fong after he got the materials. In any case, the two of them had come out together this time. Did Elder Fong want to take all the credit? Not a chance. All right, I will trust you this time. Xiao Qin thought about it for a while and seemed to have finally made up his mind. He nodded his head heavily and took out the forging materials and the meteoric iron from his bosom. He slowly walked towards Elder Fong. Elder Fong's face lit up with joy. He took 2 steps forward and prepared to receive the items. As for Elder Liao's little scheme, he was well aware of it. However, since the item was in his hands, even if Elder Liao wanted to share the credit with him, he would have to see if he agreed to it first. Just as Elder Fong was pondering about how to split the credit, the two of them were getting closer and closer. Xiao Qin seized the opportunity and suddenly circulated the primal qi in his body. He fiercely struck out with his palm. Dark Flame Palm. You cheated. Elder Fong was still in a daze when he was startled by the sudden attack. He cried out in surprise. Just as he was about to dodge, he discovered that Xiao Qian's palm had already landed on his chest. A violent force covered the sky and covered the earth as it assaulted him. Bang! A loud sound rang out. Elder Fong simply had no time to dodge. He howled miserably as he was sent flying. There was a clear dent in his chest. When he landed on the ground, he spat out a mouthful of black blood and fainted. Xiao Qin. You didn't keep your word. We agreed that neither of us would fight, but you actually dared to sneak attack and injure Elder Fong. You're simply ignoring the rules of the pugilistic world. How dare you? You're too despicable. Elder Liao was also stunned by the scene in front of him. When he regained his senses, he was furious and scolded, "Furthermore, you actually hid your strength. You're clearly a peak 8th layer devil general." However, even though his words were righteous, he stood there motionlessly. He did not dare to attack Xiaoqin directly. He was only a peak 9th layer devil general. Now that Elder Fong, who was a peak 9th layer devil general, had vomited blood and fainted, if he rashly attacked, he would only be sending himself to his death. You people from the ailment sect really have mental issues. I never said that I wouldn't attack. It's clearly that old thing's delusional, that's why he ended up in such a state. Xiaoqin mocked as another fireball appeared in his hand. He turned around and walked towards Elder Liao. He said coldly, "All right, enough of that useless talk. It's your turn next. You're the death of me. Remember this. Our extreme ice sect will not let you off so easily." Elder Liao's heart tightened when he felt the pressure from Xiaoqin. He hurriedly used his movement skill and rushed to Elder Fong's side. He grabbed him and fled. Elder Liao didn't dare to abandon Elder Fong here and escape on his own. Elder Fong was only unconscious at the moment, so he could at least explain himself to the sect leader once he regained consciousness. If he were to return alone, he wouldn't be able to explain himself even if he had 100 mouths. TSK, he's quite fast at running away. Xiaoqin shrugged as he watched Elder Liao's fleeing figure. He could not be bothered to chase after him. Xiaoqin took 2 steps out of the door and surveyed his surroundings. His gaze stopped at a pitch-black corner that he couldn't see clearly for a moment before moving away. Glancing at his Jetta, Xiaoqin could not help but grumble angrily, F***CK. They actually punctured all 4 of my tires. Aren't they just wasting my time? If I had known this would happen, I would have scammed them for a sum of money first. How unlucky. Now that Elder Liao had also escaped, it was impossible to catch him even if he wanted to. With no other choice, Xiaoqin could only give Ling Tian a call to report the current situation. Then he made a call to the auto rescue team and had 4 new tires delivered to him. He then installed them on his Jetta. Although Xiaoqin could choose to wrap his yuan qi around the tires and continue driving to Yanjing, doing so would consume too much of his yuan qi. Furthermore, according to the current situation, the extreme ice sect should only be the first wave of enemies. It was very likely that there would be more enemies coming after them. He had to conserve his strength. Elder Liao and Elder Fong fled back to the extreme ice sect that very night. After settling Elder Fong down and having him recuperate, Elder Liao braced himself and went to report the situation to the sect leader. Although they had lost quite a number of disciples on this trip, and one of the 2 elders had been crippled and the other had escaped, he had already discussed with Elder Fong, who had just regained consciousness on the way back. "Elder Liao, why did you come back alone? Where's Elder Fong? Did you get the meteoric metal and the forging materials?" Seeing Elder Liao walk in empty-handed and covered in blood, Feng Kenyun was a little puzzled. His heart skipped a beat as he felt that something was wrong. Could it be that something had happened? Yeah. Reporting to the sect leader, Elder Fong and I were unable to complete the task that the sect leader entrusted to us. Please forgive us. Elder Liao said with a guilty expression. What's going on? Where's Elder Fong? Could it be? Feng Kenyun didn't have time to reprimand Elder Fong. Elder Fong was one of the 2 elders of the sect. If something happened to him, it would be an immeasurable loss to the sect. That Xiaoqin is extremely cunning. He is a demon general level 8 expert. Elder Liao said indignantly, not only did Xiaoqin kill all the disciples we brought with us, but he also played a trick on us. When Elder Fong was caught off guard, he launched a sneak attack and severely injured him. Feng Kenyun stood up. Severely injured? Is there really no hope for him? It's fortunate that I was quick enough to find an opportunity to save Elder Fong. He's currently recuperating in his room right now, Elder Liao said. It's good that you're back. Feng Kenyun let out a long sigh of relief. He was a little displeased with Elder Liao. Can you not speak in such short sentences? It's such a good sentence, but you have to say it in 3 parts. After regaining his senses, Feng Kenyun finally understood the meaning behind Elder Liao's words. He frowned and asked, "Did you just say that Xiaoqin is a Demon General Level 8 expert?" Elder Fong is a Demon General Level 9 expert. Even if he was ambushed by Xiaoqin, he shouldn't have been so severely injured. What's going on? Elder Liao sighed heavily. Sect leader, you may not know this, but that Xiaoqin is not as simple as we think he is. His strength is secondary. The most important thing is that he is a heretic cultivator. He has some unusual martial skills that allow him to defeat enemies of a higher level. Elder Fong suffered this loss, that was why he was defeated. Back then our sect's outstanding disciples Qin Yuhan and Leng Youxiang were also very strong. However, they fell into his trap. They must have suffered because of this as well. What? Feng Canyun slammed the table and said gloomily, I didn't expect that kid to be so difficult to deal with. If I had known, I would have let the other sects test the waters. So, I feel that I'm afraid that only sect leader Feng can kill him personally. Elder Liao's face was as dejected as if his father had died. However, he was secretly observing Feng Canyun's expression. On the way back, he and Elder Fong, who had regained consciousness, had already discussed how to deal with the situation. Although the two of them were not on good terms, they still had a common understanding when it came to the reputation of the sect. After some discussion, the two of them unanimously decided to frame Xiao Qian for everything. After all, they were the two most powerful elders in the Extreme Eye sect other than Feng Canyun. If word got out that they were defeated by a young man who was only at the peak of level 8 demon general, they would not be able to stay in the sect anymore. Now, it seemed that their plan was very effective. Feng Canyun did not blame them for failing the mission. Instead, he was surprised by Xiao Qian's ability and annoyed at his lack of understanding of the situation. Hearing Elder Liao's words, Feng Canyun shook his head and said, I want to do it too, but I can't. I have just broken through to level 1 Demon King during my closed-door training. If I go to the secular world with my current strength, it will be too eye-catching. If the people of the inner martial arts world find out about it, even our backer won't be able to protect me. According to the agreement, the people of the inner martial arts world were not allowed to enter and interfere with the secular world. Feng Canyun's current strength was at level 1 Demon King. He was already half a step into the inner martial arts world. If he went to the secular world and attacked Xiao Qian, it would be a serious violation of the agreement. Chapter 833. If this matter were to be exposed, let alone the small Extreme Eye sect, even the Shenin sect of the inner martial world would be implicated and become the main target of the other sections. Moreover, he had already reached level 1 Demon King, which meant that he was about to be promoted to the outer elder of the Shenin sect. He could not risk his life. Although there were many disciples from the outer martial arts world who went to the secular world, their level was too low. As long as they didn't cause trouble and cause a big mess, the other sects and the Supernatural Investigation Bureau would basically turn a blind eye to it. However, if the people from the inner martial arts world went to the secular world, it would be a completely different matter. Sect leader, are we just going to let Xiao Qian continue to live happily? If it were not for him, our Extreme Eye sect would not have lost so many of our elite disciples. Now that even Elder Fong has been injured, I really can't take this lying down. Elder Liao said with an indignant look on his face, as if he were fighting a common enemy for the sect. Don't worry, Elder Liao. We will definitely make Xiao Qian pay the price he deserves. However, I think the most important thing right now is to inform the higher-ups of this matter so that they can understand the situation and make a decision. Feng Canyun said in a deep voice. You can go back first. Also, remember, only the few of us can know about what happened today. Do not let anyone else know. After that, Feng Canyun took out his phone and was ready to contact the elder of the Shenin sect. Alright, then I will take my leave first. Elder Liao was relieved that he had achieved his goal. It seemed that he had managed to fool Feng Canyun. He quickly bowed and left the room. Elder Liao was also a smart person. He understood the reason why Feng Canyun did not want him to spread the news of the Extreme Eye sect's defeat. On one hand, it was because they were afraid of embarrassing themselves. On the other hand, these martial world sects did not get along very well with each other. This time, the matter of Xiao Qian carrying the forging materials had caused a lot of commotion. There would definitely be many sects who would try to snatch it. The Extreme Eye sect was the first to make a move, but they were unable to gain any advantage. Of course, they were happy to see the other sects suffer as well. If they didn't leak the news now, then the other sects would naturally continue to look for Xiao Qian. It was also very likely that they would suffer a great loss at the hands of Xiao Qian. In this way, it was equivalent to indirectly weakening the strength of the other sections. Why wouldn't the Extreme Eye sect do it? The Extreme Eye sect thought that they had done this flawlessly and no one had discovered it. However, they did not know that their fight with Xiao Qian had been witnessed by the two of them. Those two people were Shi Yuchuan and Linger. They had already received a new mission. Elder Gu had asked them to follow Xiao Qian in secret and try not to confront him head-on. They were to wait for the other sects to make a move first and gradually exhaust Xiao Qian's energy. Then they would wait for the opportunity to snatch the meteoric iron and the forging materials. Shi Yuchuan was naturally very happy. Since they were following him in secret, it meant that he and Linger could spend a lot of time together. He could slowly pursue her and one day he would win her heart. Linger on the other hand had no idea what Shi Yuchuan was planning. Since Elder Gu had said so, and her sect had also confirmed this mission, she started to follow Xiaochen wholeheartedly. Therefore on that night, the scene of the extreme ice sect suffering a setback was witnessed by Shi Yuchuan and Linger who were following them from afar. Both of them were very surprised. Although Xiaochen had launched a sneak attack, it was already very impressive for him to be able to eliminate all the disciples of the extreme ice sect and even make one of their elders escape. Therefore Shi Yuchuan and Linger did not make a move immediately. Instead, they tacitly chose to observe first and continued to follow behind Xiaochen. That day, after Xiaochen had wiped out the extreme ice sect, he had even walked out of the hotel and looked in the direction where they were hiding. This had scared the hell out of them. Fortunately, he had only taken a look and did not do anything else. It seemed like he was just observing subconsciously and did not discover them. Just like that, the two of them drove and followed Xiaochen from afar for a few days. During this period, there were many people from the outer martial arts sects who came in waves to find trouble with Xiaochen. However, they were all beaten up by him and all of them escaped in a sorry state. This made the two of them even more shocked. Especially Linger, the more she observed him, the more she felt that Xiaochen was simply too powerful. Moreover, his true strength was actually at the peak of level 8 Demon General. It seemed like when Xiaochen dealt with Shi Yuchuan previously, he had been merciful. Otherwise, if they were to fight seriously, even 10 Shi Yuchuan would not be enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. But how exactly did Xiaochen cultivate? Linger could not figure it out no matter how she thought about it. Even if a mere deputy director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau in the secular world had unique cultivation resources, it was impossible for him to level up so quickly. This was already beyond her understanding. Linger, look. Those look like people from the Joyful clan? I didn't expect them to come too. Seeing that the Jetta was stopped again, Shi Yuchuan slowed down and observed carefully, pointing to a distance and saying, "If you want to see, stop the car by the side of the road first. How can you drive so slowly on the highway? Even if you don't want to live, I do." Linger sat in the front passenger seat and said angrily. This Shi Yuchuan was really brainless. He actually slowed down in the middle of the highway when he saw something. What if other cars couldn't brake in time and crashed into him? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, I was too excited and forgot. Shi Yuchuan then came to his senses and smiled embarrassedly. He quickly turned the steering wheel and stopped the sports car at the temporary stop line by the roadside. Ha, Hero Xiaochen, what a coincidence, we meet again. The one who stopped Xiaochen was the smiling Mithraea. Behind him were the old Taoist Dian Long and their big senior brother. When they learned that Xiaochen had the meteoric iron and forging materials on him, they came together and came to the secular world to look for Xiaochen. The reason why they came together was that they planned to settle the old and new grudges with Xiaochen together. The Flying Star Divine Sword that Xiaochen had exchanged for them, the smiling Mithraea, the old Taoist Dian Long and the big senior brother had studied it for a long time, but they still couldn't control it. Even when they handed it over to the elders in the sect, they couldn't do anything. One must know that the cultivation of the elders in the sect was unfathomable. Even they couldn't use their thoughts to control the flying sword. This thing must be a fake. This meant that the smiling Mithraea must have been deceived. Therefore he hated Xiaochen to the core. This time, with this opportunity, the smiling Mithraea immediately brought the big senior brother and the old Taoist Dian Long and used the sword as a reason to find trouble. Anyway, this reason was dignified. Xiaochen had no reason not to accept it. Besides, in the smiling Mithraea's view, Xiaochen was still very afraid of him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given the sword to him in the first place. This time, as long as he also threatened him, he would be able to get the forging materials easily. Oh, shaved noodles, Mithraea, what's the matter? Do you want to eat shaved noodles for me? Xiaochen got out of the car, stretched himself and asked unhurriedly. He naturally knew the purpose of the smiling Mithraea looking for him, but the other party didn't say it and he didn't want to expose it. During this time, there were too many sects looking for him, each with a strange reason, and he was already used to it. What shaved noodles? I think you're looking for shaved noodles, right? You exchanged a fake flying sword for me and you still have the cheek to act dumb in front of me? Smiling Mithraea sneered, took out the sword with the words, "Made by the Winter Seal Arts and Crafts Factory" written on it, and threw it on the ground in front of him. He was not in the mood to bicker about Xiaochen purposely saying his name incorrectly. Instead, he put on a fake smile and said, "Today, I invited both of my senior brothers over to properly settle this debt with you." Xiao Qin responded non-committally. In his heart, he thought to himself that his reaction was really slow. Only now did he realize that it was a fake. He couldn't help but ask casually, "How are you going to settle this?" The smiling Mithria was delighted. "It seems that Xiao Qin is really afraid of me." He actually asked for the result directly. He cleared his throat and said, "As long as you hand over the thing in your hand and give me the real flying sword, then our joyful clan will be magnanimous and let bygones be bygones." "You want my car? That won't do. If I give you the car, what am I going to use as a means of transportation?" Xiao Qin weighed the car key in his hand and shook his head. "Don't act dumb in front of me. What I want is the extraterrestrial meteoric iron and the forging information. Not this broken car of yours. Didn't you frame me for taking your meteoric iron back then? You can really give it to me now." The smiling Mithria stopped smiling and his face was very gloomy. Is this Xiao Qin really stupid or is he pretending to be stupid? Behind him, Taoist Yanlong also took a step forward and was about to flare up, but he was interrupted by Xiao Qin again. "I have already told you that to control this flying star divine sword, you need extremely strong willpower and mental strength. You don't have enough ability and you blame me for selling you a fake? What a joke. If you don't believe me, stand on it again. I will show you how to control it." Xiao Qin pointed at the flying sword on the ground and said coldly. The smiling Mithria was about to flare up, but when he heard the second half of Xiao Qin's sentence, he immediately took a step forward and stood on the sword's body. He crossed his arms and said, "Okay. Why don't you demonstrate it to me again? If you can fly, oh my god." Just as he was talking enthusiastically, the smiling Mithria only felt that his body was light. He looked down and saw that he was already stepping on the flying sword in midair. Although it was wobbly and not very stable, the flying sword under his feet was indeed flying above the highway. "Don't move. Otherwise, if you fall like last time, I won't be responsible." Xiao Qin shouted at the sky. Below, Taoist Yanlong, eldest senior brother, and the joyful clan's disciples all looked up at the smiling Mithria with astonished expressions. Why couldn't they fly the flying sword no matter how hard they tried? But Xiao Qin succeeded so easily. Xiao Qin saw that the time was almost right. The corner of his mouth curled up, and he retracted the divine sense that was controlling the flying sword. The flying sword suddenly fell straight down and smashed at the place where the smiling Mithria was standing previously. Xiao Qin even made an "oh yes" sound, but at this time no one could hear it. Everyone's ears were filled with the smiling Mithria's screams. Chapter 834. Ah. The smiling Mithria had just steadied himself when he suddenly felt his feet stepping on air and he fell from the sky. This was not the most important thing. When he was fluttering in the air, he accidentally saw a large truck pulling a container heading in the direction where he was falling. However, he was unable to change his position in midair. He was so anxious that he broke out in cold sweat and watched helplessly as the large truck crashed into him. Dong! A dull sound was heard. The smiling Mithria was directly knocked into the opposite lane by the truck. In the end, coincidentally, there was another Kamish truck driving in his direction from the opposite lane. Another dong sound was heard. The smiling Mithria drew an arc and was knocked back again, coincidentally landing beside the joyful clan crowd. Those joyful clan disciples were stunned. They only came back to their senses after the smiling Mithria vomited blood and fell to the ground. They quickly surrounded him and took out healing medicine to treat his injuries in a flurry. Some applied it on his skin, some stuffed it into his mouth, and some even made a fuss. It was a complete mess. The two cars saw that no one seemed to have the intention to pursue the matter and immediately ran away. Anyway, they were all overloaded and their tags had long been removed. At this moment, of course, they ran as fast as they could. TSK. It seems that high-speed bumper cars are quite fun. Xiao Qin grinned and looked at his eldest senior brother and the old Taoist Yanlong with a smile on his face. He said in a mocking tone, "The test is complete. Since there is no problem with the flying star divine sword, I'm leaving." After saying that, Xiao Qin was preparing to get into the car. Unexpectedly, eldest senior brother suddenly rushed over and blocked Xiao Qin's way. "Wait." Eldest senior brother held the flying star divine sword that he had picked up from the ground tightly and said with a sullen face, "My junior brother fainted from the fall just now. It doesn't necessarily prove that you are controlling the flying sword. So, it doesn't count. Unless you can demonstrate it again, don't think of leaving just like that." The eldest senior brother did not suspect that the smiling Methraia's fall was caused by Xiao Chen, but he still did not believe that the flying sword was real. He felt that Xiao Chen must have used some unknown special means. After all, for the past few days he, the old Taoist Yan Long, and the other experts from the various sects had been trying to control the flying star sword. Perhaps it was because these people had poured enough consciousness and mental energy into the sword that Xiao Chen could successfully control it in one try. The reason why the flying sword fell was probably because it had used up all of its mental power. I say, isn't it troublesome? When you're done, that guy won't ask me to demonstrate again, right? And there was such a large group of people. They wouldn't all be queuing up, right? Was there no end to it? I'm in a hurry to do something. Xiao Chen pointed from old Taoist Yan Long to the disciples of the joyful clan and said impatiently, "There's no need. As long as there's no problem with it, it's fine." The eldest senior brother waved his hand. He was very confident. If there was no problem with it, it meant that the flying sword was real. The reason why he couldn't activate it was because the method was wrong. All right. Let's try it again. It's rare to have after-sales service like mine. Xiao Chen shook his head and grumbled. Then he stretched out his hand and said, "Then give me the flying star sword. I'll demonstrate to you personally." Xiao Chen was about to reach for the sword, but the eldest senior brother retracted his hand and protected the sword in front of his chest. "Don't move. The sword is in my hand. You just have to demonstrate to me." The eldest senior brother looked at Xiao Chen warily. He was afraid that Xiao Chen would use it to cheat. Even if he didn't do that, if Xiao Chen took the flying sword, jumped on it and flew away, he wouldn't be able to chase after him. "Oh, all right. Then hold it firmly. I might not be able to control it well. You've seen it just now. That sliced noodles Methraia became stupid from the fall. If you were to become disabled from the fall, I won't be responsible." Xiao Chen rolled his eyes and suddenly had an idea. He said with a fake smile, "It's okay. I'm not afraid of falling. All right, don't talk nonsense. Quickly start the demonstration. Don't try to delay the time." The eldest senior brother waved his hand and stood calmly at the same place. His eyes stared at Xiao Chen. He was afraid that Xiao Chen would play some tricks. All falling is just one of the accidents. Who knows, there might be other accidents. Xiao Chen muttered to himself. He quickly transferred his spiritual energy into the flying star divine sword. While the eldest senior brother was unprepared, he controlled the flying star divine sword to slash at his neck. There was a soft cha sound. The eldest senior brother didn't have time to react. His head was directly cut off. His body fell straight back. His fingers loosened and the flying sword fell on the grass at the side. The head that was cut off rolled a few times and directly rolled to the feet of the old Taoist Yan Long. He was instantly dumbfounded. The other disciples who were treating the smiling Methraia were also shocked when they saw this scene. The whole scene was extremely quiet. "Why, Xiao Chen, you are too despicable. How dare you do such a vicious thing to the eldest senior brother? I will definitely tear you into pieces. To vent the hatred in my heart." The old Taoist Yan Long was the first to react. He flew into a rage. His whole body shook and he suddenly made a move. A tornado swept towards Xiao Chen. Dragon Sun Wave. I say, the names of the moves of the joyful clan are quite wretched. But this move is not bad. It's quite cooling. It seems that with you around in the future, I don't need to turn on the air conditioner. Xiao Chen teased. He didn't dodge or evade. He casually waved his hand and directly dispersed the tornado. He also took the opportunity to absorb a lot of devil qi. After a quick transformation in his body, Xiao Chen had already turned the devil qi into his own primordial qi. With a flash he attacked the old Taoist Yan Long. What? This is impossible. How can you? The old Taoist Yan Long was still in shock. What is going on? Why can't my martial arts hurt the other party at all? Under the great shock he was somewhat at a loss. Before he could think of a way to deal with it, he saw the soul of a shoe whistling towards him in the next moment. The old Taoist Yan Long took a closer look and realized that the back of the soul was actually Xiao Chen's leg. It was too late for him to dodge it this time. Ouch! The old Taoist Yan Long cried out in pain. He was directly sent flying by a kick from Xiao Chen. When he landed on the ground he was already unconscious. Blood was still bubbling non-stop from the corner of his mouth. All the joyful clan disciples present were already dumbfounded. In just a short while the smiling Methraia was hit by a car. The old Taoist Yan Long was kicked unconscious. Even the most capable eldest senior brother was beheaded with a sword. This was too unbelievable. Was this a dream? You are actually at the peak of the 8th level of the Demon General. On the other side, the smiling Maitreya had already woken up in a daze with the help of the disciples. Hence, he saw the entire scene of Xiao Qin dealing with the old Taoist Yanlong. He was extremely shocked and asked in a trembling voice, "How did your strength suddenly become so high? Weren't you only at the 6th level of the Demon General previously?" "Oh, thank you for your myriad crossing king fruit. I leveled up because of it," Xiao Qin said with a smile. You ate it? All of it?" The smiling Maitreya was extremely surprised. One must know that the myriad crossing king fruit was a material used to break through to the Demon King realm. How could it increase the strength of the Demon General? No one had ever told him this before. "Yes, I've eaten all of it. Do you have any more? Give me some more." Xiao Qin rubbed his hands and said sincerely. Then he walked towards the direction of the smiling Maitreya. "Oh, no, I don't have any more." The smiling Maitreya panicked. He quickly shook his head and forced himself to stand up. He squeezed out a smile and said, Since the flying star sword is useful, then it's all right. I'm leaving. Goodbye." After saying that, the smiling Maitreya hurriedly ordered a few disciples to carry the unconscious old Taoist Yanlong, as well as the head and corpse of the eldest senior brother. Then he took off and prepared to flee the scene. He was afraid that Xiao Qin would find trouble with him again. He had no choice but to be afraid. Although the smiling Maitreya's strength was similar to that of the old Taoist Yanlong, they were both at the 10th level of the Demon General realm, which was a little higher than Xiao Qin. However, the old Taoist Yanlong was obviously still unconscious. He had also been hit by the car twice. His body was severely injured. At most, he could only exert half of his strength. Therefore, if Xiao Qin wanted to kill him, it was simply a piece of cake. Besides, the eldest senior brother's strength was a level higher than his. Didn't he see that he was easily beheaded by Xiao Qin? The smiling Maitreya felt that this guy was a bit strange. He couldn't afford to provoke him. It was better to run away quickly. "Hey, don't go." Xiao Qin picked up the flying star sword on the ground and waved it at the smiling Maitreya. The smiling Maitreya looked back and thought that Xiao Qin was going to use the flying sword to kill him. He ran faster and disappeared in an instant. "You don't want your sword anymore?" Xiao Qin shouted. Seeing that there were already people on the road, he couldn't help but shake his head. "Really, such an expensive thing, you don't want it anymore? It seems that the people of the outer martial arts world are really local tycoons. Sure enough, rich people are willful." Shrugging helplessly, Xiao Qin threw the flying star sword into the Jetta. He glanced behind him and found that there was a Lamborghini still parked on the side of the road. There was such a big movement, but he didn't see anyone coming out of the car. Xiao Qin curled his lips and didn't bother to pay attention to him. He got into the Jetta, started it and continued on his way. Shi Yuchuan and Ling Er, who were sitting in the Lamborghini, saw that Xiao Qin was looking at them. They thought that he was going to make trouble for them, so they were so scared that they quickly shrank back. After waiting for a long time, there was no movement. The two of them looked out in fear and found that Xiao Qin's car had gone far away, leaving only the rear of the car. The two of them let out a long sigh of relief. It seemed that Xiao Qin didn't really notice them. He probably just looked at the Lamborghini because it was more handsome. In fact, Shi Yuchuan and Ling Er didn't know that Xiao Qin had already noticed them when the people from the extreme ice sect appeared. He just didn't expose them. Chapter 835. Xiao Qin didn't mind. Since they liked to follow him, they could follow him. The highway wasn't owned by the Xiao family. He couldn't possibly stop them from leaving, right? Although Shi Yuchuan was so frightened that his limbs were trembling, he still started the car and chased after them. When they passed by the place where the joyful clan people fought, they saw the ghastly bloodstains on the ground and recalled the scene where the eldest senior brother's head was chopped off. The two people in the car felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. I think that Xiao Qin is too strange. Even if you let the spokesperson of your clan deal with Xiao Qin in the outside world, he will definitely be at a disadvantage like these people. And the two of us aren't his match. Why don't we just give up and go back to think of another way?" Linger's voice was trembling. The smiling Maitreya and the old Taoist Yanlong were both 10th level perfected demon generals. As for that eldest senior brother, it was said that he was already at the half-step Demon King realm. Even they were nothing in the hands of Xiao Qin. Ling Er felt that her little cultivation was nothing to him. Xiao Qin just needed to move his fingers and he would be able to press her down. How can we do that? Elder Ji's order is for us to follow Xiao Qin and act according to the situation. We will look for opportunities to snatch the forging materials. If we return empty-handed, how are we going to answer to him? Shi Yuchuan's face was a little gloomy as he rejected immediately. Actually, Shi Yuchuan didn't care much about whether he could complete the mission or not. These days he had been pursuing Ling Er, but she just didn't appreciate it. He originally wanted to make use of this mission to have something happen between him and Ling Er. Then, the two sects would be able to have a successful marriage alliance. His position in his own sect would also skyrocket. In the Six Directions sect, Shi Yuchuan was only the nephew of one of the elders. If he wanted to stand out, he couldn't just rely on relationships. He could only rely on his own strength or strong external help. In terms of strength, he was merely a third-level demon general. There were many people who were higher than him in the Six Directions sect. Therefore, he could only rely on Ling Er, this external help, to consolidate his position. If he could get hold of Ling Er, then her sect would be able to give him a huge boost and he would be able to rise in rank. However, Ling Er did not give him a chance at all. She turned a blind eye to Shi Yuchuan's attempts to please her, and all of his efforts were in vain. Shi Yuchuan did not dare to use force. He did think of ways to drug her, but Ling Er was too vigilant. She never drank anything that was opened. Usually she would buy her own food and would not eat anything that Shi Yuchuan bought. This made it impossible for him to do anything. If you have the ability, go and snatch the thing from Xiao Chen's hands yourself. Ling Er rolled her eyes and said snappily. Shi Yuchuan was speechless. If he could rob it, why would he need to follow them? The hair on his head hadn't even grown out yet. Looking at Shi Yuchuan's suffocating look, Ling Er shook her head and said, "It's not like you didn't see it. So many people from the sects have come to cause trouble for Xiao Chen these few days. Moreover, many of them are the core elders of the sections. Which one of them is weaker than you? In the end, they were all beaten to a pulp by him. You're just a third-level demon general. What confidence do you have in getting anything out of Xiao Chen's hands? But we can't give up halfway." Shi Yuchuan held it in for a while. His eyes turned and an idea suddenly popped up in his mind. He said with a faint smile, "Miss Ling Er, I have a suggestion. Maybe we can steal the meteoric iron and the forging information. However, you might have to suffer a little." "What idea?" Ling Er immediately became alert and asked very vigilantly. Shi Yuchuan said slowly, "Let's use a honey trap. You first seduce that kid Xiao Chen and let him have a taste of sweetness. Then we'll work together from the inside and outside. We'll take the opportunity to steal the meteoric iron and the forging information. It's very likely that we'll succeed in one fell swoop." After listening to Ling Er's words just now, Shi Yuchuan was also a little discouraged. According to the current situation, it was impossible for him to pursue Ling Er. Since that was the case, he might as well let her sacrifice her body and settle Xiao Chen first. After getting the meteoric iron and the information, he could rely on this contribution to occupy a key position in the sect. Maybe he could even be promoted to the position of an elder in the future. Bastard. Shameless. What kind of person do you think I am? Do you think I'm the kind of woman who will do anything to achieve her goals? Ling Er suddenly became furious after listening to him. She didn't expect Shi Yuchuan to be so shameless. If he wasn't driving, Ling Er couldn't wait to kill him with a slap. "Hey, don't be angry. I'm just discussing it with you, right? I'm thinking about our mission and it's also a good intention. Actually, you don't have to really roll in the sheets with Xiao Chen. You just need to tempt him a little and maybe he'll take the bait. You're so beautiful, any man who sees you will not be able to control himself." Shi Yuchuan didn't give up and continued to tempt her patiently. Of course, Shi Yuchuan wouldn't be stupid enough to let Xiao Chen steal Ling Er's first. After all, he still coveted Ling Er. From his point of view, Ling Er must be left for him. Even if they were to go on, he should go first. How could he let that kid Xiao Chen take advantage of her? "You shut up." Ling Er glared at Shi Yuchuan fiercely. She didn't expect him to be so filthy as to actually say such vulgar words like rolling in the sheets. When she went back, she would definitely complain about him in front of her master. Shi Yuchuan's persuasion failed, and he was scolded instead. His expression didn't look very good. He didn't say anything, but his eyes kept darting around as he calculated something in his heart. At this time, Xiao Chen's car just happened to turn into the service area. Shi Yuchuan followed in, but he used the excuse of going to the toilet and parked the car outside the restroom. After walking into the men's restroom and seeing that there was no one around, Shi Yuchuan secretly made a phone call in the restroom. Over the phone, Shi Yuchuan reported the current situation to the sect. Elder Gu also frowned after hearing it. He didn't expect Xiao Chen to have the strength of a demon general level 8. This was far beyond his expectations. Shi Yuchuan took the opportunity to propose the idea of letting Ling seduce Xiao Qin, and he repeated his analysis. Elder Gu nodded slightly. He also felt that Shi Yuchuan's suggestion was the most suitable method at the moment, so he agreed to follow up as soon as possible. After hanging up, Elder Gu immediately called Ling master, Granny Nanshan. After all, he didn't have a subordinate relationship with Ling so it wasn't appropriate for him to directly order Ling around. He still needed Granny Nanshan to step in. In the end, Elder Gu didn't expect Granny Nanshan to reject him right after he explained the situation. Not only did she not listen to his analysis, but she also scolded him over the phone. She said that he didn't know how to be respectful and shameless, and that he used her daughter to seduce Ling if he had the ability. Elder Gu was furious, but he couldn't directly scold Granny Nanshan, so he could only hang up resentfully. After putting down the phone, Elder Gu became angrier the more he thought about it. Damn it, does she really think her disciple is a treasure? What's wrong with contributing to the sect? How can she accomplish great things without any dedication? After thinking for a long time, Elder Gu decided to make another call and contact the sect leader of the Cloud Guide sect, Zhuofifan. He hoped that he could step in and settle the matter directly. The Cloud Guide sect was the sect that Granny Nanshan and Ling were in. After Zhuofifan heard the plan, he immediately made a decision and agreed to it. As the sect leader of the sect, no matter what he did, his starting point was always for the sake of the sect and the overall situation. In his opinion, as long as it could bring tangible benefits to the sect, sacrificing a few sect disciples was not a big deal. Moreover, it was just letting Ling seduce Xiao Qin. It wasn't a sacrifice at all. After all, women would have to do this one day, wouldn't they? If he could make good use of this opportunity, then it would be of great value. However, if he wanted to give orders to Ling he couldn't bypass Granny Nanshan. This old fellow was famous for protecting her disciples. Zhuofifan had always been at odds with her. In addition, she was usually aloof and didn't really listen to the sect. Even though she was an elder of the Cloud Guide sect, she always disagreed with Zhuofifan. This time, Zhuofifan took this opportunity to call for a sect meeting. Ignoring Granny Nanshan's objection, he forcefully approved the suggestion to let Ling seduce Xiao Qin. He even accused Granny Nanshan of not respecting the sect leader and not caring about the safety of the sect. He directly grounded her and forbade her from contacting anyone. Sect leader Zhuai, I can't do this. Can you send someone else to do it? Ling pleading voice came from the Lamborghini parked in the service area. Ling didn't expect Zhuofifan to call her in person. She was so anxious that she almost burst into tears. Previously, when the elders of the sect came to persuade her, she could still refuse them firmly. However, Zhuofifan was the sect leader of the Cloud Guide sect, so Ling naturally didn't dare to neglect him. Therefore, she could only put down her pride and plead bitterly. Ling since you're a disciple of the Cloud Guide sect, you should have the awareness of contributing to the sect. Moreover, I've already told your master about this and she agreed to let you do it, Zhuofifan said earnestly on the phone. But I... Ling bit her lower lip. She wanted to refuse, but she didn't know where to start. Alright, that's it. Go and carry out the task as soon as possible. I hope you can complete it smoothly. Don't let down the trust and cultivation of the sect. After Zhuofifan finished speaking in a serious tone, he directly hung up the phone without giving Ling a chance to plead again. Linger's fingers trembled as she pressed the phone. She wanted to call Granny Nanshan again to see if she could ask her to plead with the sect leader. However, Granny Nanshan's phone was still unanswered. She couldn't get through no matter how hard she tried. The phone fell on her knees. Disheartened, Ling buried her head in her hands. Her shoulders shook as she sobbed in a low voice. Chapter 836. The door opened with a click. Linga looked up and saw Shi Yuchuan holding the door and looking at her. She had no choice but to wipe the tears on her face, lowered her head and didn't speak. Miss Linger, I seem to hear you crying? Why are your eyes red? Did something happen? Shi Yuchuan asked even though he already knew the answer. Just now, he had pretended to walk around the service area. In fact, when Linger was on the phone, he had been eavesdropping outside the car. He had heard every word of the conversation. How could he not know the reason? Nothing. The wind is too strong. Zhang got in my eyes. What's the matter? Linger turned her head away. She really didn't want to see Shi Yuchuan's hypocritical face. She felt disgusted just looking at it. Hee, I heard it just now. I also know you are not willing. But this is the order of the sect. As disciples we can't openly disobey it. Otherwise, if it really gets out, it will damage the reputation of our sect, right? Sure, Yuchuan tried to persuade her on the surface. But in his heart he was gloating. Bitch, didn't you want to pretend to be pure? Now it's over. It's none of your business. I will solve my own business. If there's nothing else, you can go out for a walk. I want to rest for a while. Linga looked at Shi Yuchuan coldly. Just as she was about to close the door, she was stopped by him. He, Miss Linger, since you have decided, then I can't say anything more. I believe everyone will admire you for your courage to contribute to the sect. But... Shi Yuchuan smiled wretchedly. He lowered his body and leaned against the door. Linger moved further in disgust. She wanted to stay further away from Shi Yuchuan. Shi Yuchuan suppressed the excitement in his heart. He rubbed his hands and said, "How about this? I also know you are unhappy. Instead of letting that idiot Xiaoqin take advantage of you, why not? Consider me first. Otherwise, it would be such a waste to give him the first time. You see, I usually treat you quite well." Get lost. Linger knew that Shi Yuchuan had nothing good to say, but she didn't expect him to be so despicable. She was so angry that her vision turned black. Without waiting for Shi Yuchuan to finish, she lifted her leg and kicked him out. Then she slammed the door shut. Shi Yuchuan stumbled back a few steps and subconsciously rubbed his ears. He really didn't expect the petite Linger to let out such a loud roar. It almost deafened him. Depressed, he was about to take another stroll when he suddenly saw Xiaoqin come out of the convenience store in the distance. Then he got into the Jetta and drove away. Shi Yuchuan was shocked and quickly got into the car from the other side. Linga was about to scold him, but he quickly pointed outside. Linga looked up and saw Xiaoqin's car disappear from her sight. Linger knew that Shi Yuchuan was going to continue following her, so she stopped talking. Shi Yuchuan quickly started the car. In his impatience he almost hit the roadside fence. Linger, who was curled up in the passenger seat, didn't say a word. Her whole body was trembling, and her tears couldn't stop falling. She hated Shi Yuchuan to death. It was obvious that he was the one behind all this. Linger also knew that her master, Grandma Nanshan, couldn't do whatever she wanted in the sect. After all, she was only one of the elders. She still had to listen to the opinions of Zhuo Fifan and the other elders. Although she would definitely stand on her side, she couldn't change other people's minds. Now that she couldn't contact her, it was very likely that the sect had taken some measures against Grandma Nanshan. After sobbing silently for a while, Linger also knew that there was nothing she could do about this matter. She couldn't disobey the sect leader's orders, so she could only choose to accept it. Sitting silently in the passenger seat, Linger's eyes stared straight at Xiaoqin's Jetta not far away. No one knew what she was thinking. No matter what Shi Yuchuan said, she didn't answer. Later, Shi Yuchuan had to give up and focused on tracking Xiaoqin. After the smiling Mithria escaped, he didn't directly return to the joyful clan. After all, the distance was too far. He ran to the foot of a nearby mountain with his disciples and then stopped. He planned to recover here first and then continue on his journey. Originally, this group of people was driving the minibus to find trouble with Xiaoqin. However, they just fled too hastily. The group of people panicked and didn't have time to drive again. No one thought of driving, so they all ran to the roadside wilderness. During this period, they looked up to the sky from time to time, for fear that Xiaoqin would chase them with his flying sword. After running to the foot of the mountain with great difficulty, the smiling Mithria looked back and didn't seem to find Xiaoqin. Finally he took a breath. First, he ordered the disciples to wake up old Taoist Dianlong, and then the group ran to the mountain. The smiling Mithria was thinking that even if Xiaoqin had a flying sword, it shouldn't be so easy for him to find them in the dense forest, right? His idea was unanimously approved by many disciples. With a unanimous vote, they began to run up the mountain. With great difficulty, they climbed to a pavilion halfway up the mountain. The group of people sat down to rest their feet. Someone noticed that there was a stone tablet erected beside the pavilion. On it, the words Greenstone Mountain were engraved in large, bold, and powerful characters. Greenstone Mountain? This name seems to be a little familiar. I seem to have heard it somewhere. The smiling Mithria squinted at the few words and touched his head. He tried hard to recall, but he couldn't think of anything. Don't think so much. First, find a place to rest. I almost vomited from the jolting along the way. Old Taoist Dianlong's face was pale, lying on the stretcher and saying weakly. When he was unconscious just now, he was carried by the joyful clan disciples and jolted all the way to the foot of the mountain. When he woke up, he felt that all the bones in his body were scattered. Later on, when he was carried up the mountain, the rugged mountain road made him feel that his internal organs had shifted positions. Now, he couldn't wait to fly directly to the top of the mountain and find a suitable place to lie down and recuperate. Alright then, let's go up and take a look. Seeing that his senior brother had spoken, the smiling Mithriya waved his hand and gave the order. The joyful clan group continued to climb up the mountain, but before they could go far, they were stopped by a cultivator dressed in ancient clothes. Stop. This is the restricted area of the Greenstone sect. Unauthorized people are not allowed to trespass. That young cultivator was carrying a bamboo basket filled with fresh herbs. It seemed that he had just collected some herbs and happened to meet them when he passed by here. At this moment, he was frowning and blocking in front of the joyful clan people. At first, everyone thought that it was Xiao Qin who had caught up and got a huge shock. It was the smiling Mithriya who steadied himself. He separated the disciples and walked forward, sizing up that cultivator and said with a little puzzlement, "Kid, you look quite familiar?" That cultivator was stunned and took a closer look at the smiling Mithriya. With this look, the expression on his face was a little off, and he instinctively wanted to leave. The smiling Mithriya suddenly slapped his thigh and finally remembered. He pointed at that cultivator and said, "Oh yes. I remember that you are the acting sect master of the Greenstone sect. You're Jing Xinxiang, right? Good kid, I finally caught you. You are the guy who caused trouble at the Lunar New Year auction previously." A few days ago, at the Lunar New Year auction of the outer martial arts world, the smiling Mithriya and the long-faced cultivator were fighting for the 1,000-year purple snow lotus. Unexpectedly, Zheng Xinxiang interfered in the middle and made him spend an extra 100 million to buy it. Because of this matter, he was even criticized by the sect master and sulked for a few days. So it's the smiling Mithriya from the joyful clan. Zheng Xinxiang subconsciously took 2 steps back with a bitter expression. He had already recognized the smiling Mithriya just now and only hoped that the other party would forget about him. Unexpectedly, he was still recognized. Looking at the smiling Mithriya who harbored evil intentions and the group of joyful clan disciples behind him, Zheng Xinxiang could not help but groan in his heart. He was originally kind and wanted to buy medicine for his master at the auction, but he accidentally offended the smiling Mithriya. Previously, he waited in fear for a long time, but he did not see anyone coming to seek revenge. Later on, he finally relaxed and thought that the other party had forgotten about him. Unexpectedly, he actually came to find him now. Hee, you're quite capable, kid. Guarding such a half-dead broken sect, and you actually dare to compete with me, causing me to spend an extra 100 million unjustly. Today, I must make you spit it all out with interest. The smiling Mithriya crossed his arms and looked at Zheng Xinxiang, saying with a faint smile, "Senior, you've misunderstood. I really need that 1,000-year purple snow lotus. I didn't mean to tease you." Zheng Xinxiang explained weakly and then stood on the spot in a daze, completely at a loss of what to do. He did not even think of escaping. There were so many people on the other side, where could he run to? Besides, the monk could run away but the temple could not run away. Really? Do you think I will believe you? The smiling Mithriya took 2 steps forward and said coldly, "It's true. It's true." Zheng Xinxiang took another 2 steps back. He had already retreated to the edge of the cliff. If he took another step back, he would fall off the cliff. His face was pale and big beads of sweat rolled down. The smiling Mithriya saw that the effect of intimidation had been achieved, so he said slowly, "We, the big sects, are most particular about presenting facts and evidence. We will never wrongly accuse a good person. How about this? I will give you this chance today. It's already late now. You immediately find a place for us to rest and serve us well. Then, based on your performance, I will see if I believe you or not." He did not intend to deal with Zheng Xinxiang now. This place was in the middle of nowhere. There was not even a shelter to shelter from the wind and rain. Now that this guy had sent himself to the door, the smiling Mithriya thought that he would first rest in the Greenstone sect for a while. After he recovered his vitality, he would settle the score. This. Zheng Xinxiang looked troubled. He did not know how to refuse for a moment. Chapter 837. What? Are you not willing? Do you believe that I will immediately make Greenstone sect disappear from the map? Smiling Mithriya said fiercely. In fact, he was just bluffing. Previously, he was tricked by Xiao Qin until he was covered in injuries. His strength had not recovered, so he could not make a move. He could only temporarily stay in Greenstone sect and plan his next move after he recovered his strength. However, Jing Xinxiang did not know this. Seeing the smiling Mithria's evil behavior, he could only agree. Then he brought the joyful clan people to the sect on the mountain with a bitter face. Zheng Xinxiang prayed in his heart, hoping that they really just wanted to stay for a night and then leave. If that was the case, then he would just bear with it. When he walked to the gate of Greenstone sect, he saw that the paint on the entire gate was peeling. It looked dilapidated and old. After walking in, there were only a few scattered thatched houses. No one was walking around and it looked very desolate. Damn, what a broken place. There isn't even a decent house. Smiling Mithria looked around and said unhappily. Looking at those houses, smiling Mithria finally saw a house that was passable. He then instructed his disciples, "All right, you guys find a place to stay. Senior brother Dianlong and I will stay there." "Senior, this house won't do. This house is where my master lives. He's seriously injured." Zheng Xinxiang was anxious and quickly wanted to stop the smiling Mithria. However, before he could finish, he was pushed away by the smiling Mithria. With a cold snort, smiling Mithria took a few steps forward and kicked the door open. The room was simple without any decent furniture, but it was still clean and tidy. An old man was sitting on the bed. At this time he was frowning and looking over. However, after seeing smiling Mithria, his expression turned a little ugly. F***ck off. Old thing, it's a waste of space to stay here. Hurry up and get out with your useless disciple. The smiling Mithria swaggered to the bed, picked up Zheng Xinxiang's master, and threw him out without saying a word. If Zheng Xinxiang had not arrived in time to support him, his master might have fallen outside the door. The smiling Mithria didn't seem to see this scene. He patted his stomach casually and said, "Surname Zheng, hurry up and get me something to eat. I'm starving to death. Also, my senior brother and those disciples prepare their meals." You. Zheng Xinxiang was infuriated. He clenched his fists and was about to rush forward, but his master, Gu Chongyi, stopped him. Ahem. Xianxiang, forget it. Master's old bones can still hold on. You are not their match, so don't be too impulsive. Although Gu Chongyi was injured, he still had good eyesight. When the smiling Mithria appeared just now, he recognized that it was an expert from the Joyful clan. If he was not injured back then, he might have a chance to fight with the other party. Now he could only swallow his anger. "Master, the Joyful clan's disciples have occupied all the empty rooms here. Your health isn't good. You can't possibly sleep outside, right?" Zheng Xinxiang was pulled by Gu Chongyi and supported him to sit at the side as he said indignantly, "It's okay. Go and prepare some food for them first. Anyway, the weather isn't too cold now. Let's go to the pavilion halfway up the mountain and make do for the night." Gu Chongyi patted Zheng Xinxiang's shoulder and shook his head helplessly. He stood up and walked down the mountain with his hands behind his back. Although Zheng Xinxiang was depressed, he also knew that the situation was not in his favor. He could only nod his head sullenly and go to the kitchen to cook something. In the process of cooking, he secretly grabbed a handful of soil from the ground and sprinkled it into the food. Perhaps he still felt angry, so he spat a few mouthfuls of saliva into the food when no one was paying attention. Then he passed the food to the smiling Mithria. "Wait. Don't leave first. We still have some scores to settle." Zheng Xinxiang had just placed the food on the table and was about to leave when he was stopped by the smiling Mithria. "I have already given up my room and made food for all of you. My master is going to sleep outside today. What else do you want?" Zheng Xinxiang was shocked, but he pretended to be calm. Could it be that his action of sprinkling soil and spitting saliva into the food had been discovered? "Oh, you're still playing dumb? Previously at the Lunar New Year auction, you made me spend an extra 100 million to buy a useless 1,000-year-old purple snow lotus. You can't have forgotten about it so quickly, right?" The smiling Mithria squinted his eyes and said, That 1,000-year-old purple snow lotus was bought by you. What does it have to do with me?" Zheng Xinxiang took 2 steps back and retorted without much confidence. The smiling Mithria had already eaten something just now, so his physical strength had recovered a lot. When he heard that, he went forward and grabbed Zheng Xinxiang's collar and shouted, "Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and take out 200 million as compensation. Otherwise, I will burn down your Green Rock sect." Zheng Xinxiang struggled a few times and realized that he couldn't break free at all. He forced himself to be calm and said, You are clearly robbing. Besides, you only spent an extra 100 million. Why should I pay you 200 million? F***CKU. The smiling Mithria simply slapped Zheng Xinxiang directly and said with a gloomy face, "You still have to pay interest for a bank loan. Can't I collect some interest? Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and take out the money. My patience is limited. Don't dilly-dally. I don't have money, but I have my life. Take it if you like it. Zheng Xinxiang spat out a mouthful of blood and glared at the smiling Mithriya with his teeth clenched. You're quite stubborn, aren't you? How dare you participate in the auction without money? The smiling Mithriya naturally didn't believe him. He searched Zheng Xinxiang's body and immediately found a bank card. He held it in his hand and waved it. Didn't you say that you don't have money? Then how do you explain this card? Tell me what's the password. This? The money in this is for me to buy medicine for my master. You can't take it. Zheng Xinxiang panicked. He wanted to rush forward and snatch the card back. In the end, he was slapped by the smiling Mithriya, which made him dizzy. I see. You should have said so earlier. The smiling Mithriya's tone suddenly softened. Zheng Xinxiang just had a little hope, and the smiling Mithriya's face turned serious again. Then I'll go and kill your master now. This way you don't need to buy medicine for him anymore. Anyway, it's useless for him to live. It's better to free him now. After that, the smiling Mithriya sneered. He waved his hand and threw Zheng Xinxiang aside. He lifted his leg and walked out the door. Wait. Zheng Xinxiang was shocked. He rushed over and hugged the smiling Mithriya's thigh. What are you doing? The smiling Mithriya was furious and kicked Zheng Xinxiang to the corner. Zheng Xinxiang endured the pain and quickly stood up. He gritted his teeth and said, The password of that card is 6 zeros. You can take them all. I just hope you don't hurt my master. In fact, Zheng Xinxiang had already saved 200 million in that bank card. He originally wanted to find a chance to buy a 1,000-year-old purple snow lotus for his master to heal. However, if he didn't hand it over now, his master's life would be in danger. Zheng Xinxiang had no choice but to hand it over. Diske, I really didn't know that you are quite filial to that old thing. I say, are you his illegitimate child? Ah. The smiling Mithriya's anger turned into joy. He laughed a few times and waved his hand. Well, you can get lost. Hurry up and find that old thing to fulfill your filial piety. Zheng Xinxiang lowered his head. His eyes were full of resentment. If it wasn't because his strength was too low, he would have rushed up and fought with the smiling Mithriya. However, now he could only humble himself and beg the other party to let him go. He helplessly turned and left the room. As for his master's medicine money, he could only think of a way in the future. Where are the herbs that I picked? Zheng Xinxiang had just walked out of the door when he suddenly remembered that the herbs that he had just picked today were still in the bamboo basket. So he turned around and went back to the room to look for them. As a result, he saw that the bamboo basket placed in the corner was empty. There was nothing in it. Okay, stop muttering. I have already used those herbs. There is nothing else, hurry up and get lost. Don't disturb my rest. The smiling Mithriya said faintly. When he first moved in, he found that the healing medicine was good. It just so happened that he and senior brother Dianlong could use it. So he took it away. You. Zheng Xinxiang clenched his fists, but he dared not say anything. He could only curse his bad luck and angrily walked out. On the highway, Xiaochen was driving absent-mindedly. Along the way, he was harassed by people from various sections. Although there was no danger, his journey was very slow. He constantly stopped and walked. He had just sent away a few sections. After a while, it was already late at night. Xiaochen looked at the satellite navigation map in the car. He wanted to determine how far the rest area was, but he inadvertently found that there was a place called Greenstone Mountain near where he was. Greenstone Mountain. Wasn't that where Zheng Xinxiang's Greenstone sect was located? Xiaochen was a little surprised. He thought to himself, since I'm here, I'll go see him. I'll also treat his master. After all, I promised him before. It just so happens that I have some time now. I can rest there for the night. Driving to the foot of Greenstone Mountain, Xiaochen casually found a place to park. Then he took the meteoric iron and forging materials and walked up the mountain. Just as he was halfway up the mountain, Xiaochen suddenly saw two people sitting in the pavilion in front of him. They seemed to be chatting about something. Xiaochen lightened his footsteps and carefully approached them. Master, this disciple is useless. The smiling Mithriya not only robbed me of the money to buy medicine for you, but also used up the medicinal materials I just picked. Zheng Xinxiang's eyes were red. He knelt in front of Gu Chongyi with a plop sound. Forget it. Money is just a worldly possession. It's fine as long as you're fine. Gu Chongyi helped Zheng Xinxiang up. He shook his head and comforted him. If it weren't for me not listening to your teachings and forcibly practicing the Devil's Heart Sutra, our sect wouldn't have fallen into this situation today. For me to have such a filial disciple like you, even if I die, I can die in peace. Chapter 838. Master, you're too kind. I'm indebted to you. If you didn't take me in and let me do odd jobs in Green Rock sect, I would have starved to death on the streets. Now that I've repaid your kindness, it's only right that I do so. Jing Xinxiang said sincerely. Brother Xiang. Long time no see. Xiaoqun listened for a while and confirmed that the two people were Jing Xinxiang and his master. He greeted them enthusiastically and walked forward. However, Xiaoqun was puzzled after listening to the conversation between the master and disciple. Why didn't the smiling Maitreya return to Joyful Clan? Instead, he came to Green Rock sect to find trouble with Jing Xinxiang? Although the two of them had some conflicts before, there was no need for him to seek revenge, right? In fact, although Xiaoqun had already driven one round on the highway, he could only take a detour because of the mountain obstruction. The smiling Maitreya and his group directly passed through the small roads to Green Rock Mountain. That was why they arrived earlier. Who's there? Jing Xinxiang was shocked when he heard someone speak. He quickly stood up and looked around vigilantly. Seeing Xiaoqun walk toward him, although Jing Xinxiang felt that the voice was familiar, he still asked curiously, "Who are you? How do you know my name? Are you also from Joyful Clan?" I'm Chang Xiao. Didn't we attend the Lunar New Year auction together a few days ago? However, I was wearing a mask at that time and I used a fake name. My real name is Xiaoqun. Xiaoqun walked closer, smiled, and explained the situation at that time. Oh, it's young Master Chang. Young swordsman Xiaoqun. Although I didn't manage to buy the 1,000-year purple snow lotus at the auction, I still have to thank you for your enthusiastic help. Jing Xinxiang finally understood and quickly thanked him. You're welcome. Xiaoqun waved his hand and glanced at Gu Chongyi. As expected, he looked emaciated as if he was injured. Jing Xinxiang touched his nose and asked in surprise, Young swordsman Xiaoqun, I heard that you've become the demon sect master of the outer martial arts world. Is that true? What brings you to our Green Rock sect today? Since Green Rock sect was rejected by both the righteous sects and the evil cult, and there were only two people in the sect, Jing Xinxiang and Gu Chongyi, Jing Xinxiang's information network had always been lagging behind. He did not know that Xiaoqun had become the public enemy of all the outer martial arts sects, and even the inner martial arts world was eyeing Xiaoqun covetously. It's a long story. Simply put, I received a new mission and happened to pass by Greenstone Mountain, so I came to visit you. Moreover, didn't I promise you back then that I would treat your master? Xiaoqun shrugged his shoulders and explained in a downplayed manner. I've really troubled you too much, young swordsman Xiaoqun. But the environment today. Jing Xinxiang was very grateful, but he sighed heavily. Back then, Jing Xinxiang thought that Xiaoqun was just saying it casually. He didn't expect him to really come. However, now that his sect was occupied by the Joyful Clan, he couldn't entertain him. This made Jing Xinxiang feel very ashamed. Xinxiang, who is this young master? Gu Chongyi had been sizing up Xiaoqun for a while, but he couldn't see through his strength. He was a little surprised and asked, Master, he is the young swordsman that I mentioned to you previously, the one who was willing to lend me money to buy medicine. Jing Xinxiang just remembered that he had forgotten to introduce him and quickly explained to Gu Chongyi. Oh, so it's young swordsman Xiao. Nice to meet you. My disciple is slow-witted. If it wasn't for your help, I'm afraid he would have been extorted by the horse gang. I really have to thank you for this matter. Gu Chongyi nodded in realization, and his attitude towards Xiaoqun was also much more polite. Senior, you're overpraising me. It's nothing. Xiaoqun waved his hand indifferently, but he was thinking about something else. Oh yes, I accidentally heard your conversation just now. You seem to have encountered some trouble? I wonder if there's anything this junior can help with? Sai, it's all because of those scum from the Joyful Clan. My disciple was careless in his behavior at the auction previously and offended the smiling Maitreya. I reckon he's here to seek revenge. Now, not only did he chase both of us out of the clan, but he also snatched the money that Xinxiang gave me to buy medicine. If it wasn't for me. Speaking up to this point, Gu Chongyi stopped and shook his head. Obviously, he was very annoyed with his injuries. Oh, then let's go up and take a look. I was just looking for this fool. I didn't expect him to come here to show off his existence. It just so happens that I'm short of money recently. Let him give me some. Upon hearing that, Xiao Chen heard that this fellow didn't hurry back to the joyful clan and was still showing off outside. Was he looking down on him? Then he could beat him up again. Young swordsman Xiao Chen, that smiling Mithriya didn't come alone. His senior brother, old Taoist Yen Long, is also here. There's also a large group of joyful clan disciples. If we go over just like that, I'm afraid it'll be hard for us to get any benefits. Jing Xinxiang was shocked. Since when did Xiao Chen become so powerful? He couldn't help but feel a little doubtful. He felt that with Xiao Chen's strength, he shouldn't be able to fend off so many people. After all, rumor had it that when he became the demon clan sect master, he was only a 6th-level demon general. How could he fend off so many people? Oh, it's alright. I just killed the most powerful senior brother among them. The remaining people aren't that powerful. Xiao Chen waved his hand and didn't say much. He directly walked in the direction of the Green Rock sect. Jing Xinxiang and Gu Chongyi looked at each other. Both of them could see the surprise in each other's eyes. However, Jing Xinxiang immediately recalled that Xiao Chen was the demon clan sect master. He could really control the people from the joyful clan. He thought that Xiao Chen wanted to use his prestige as the sect master to suppress them. Hence, he followed behind Xiao Chen and slowly walked up the mountain. When they arrived at the Green Rock sect, Jing Xinxiang hurriedly pointed at the largest room in the middle, indicating that the smiling Mithriya was inside. Xiao Chen nodded in understanding and swaggered in directly after pushing the door open. Jing Xinxiang did not dare to follow them in. He supported Gu Chongyi and walked to the side to wait. It was better for him not to participate in the internal matters of the demon cult. If he accidentally got involved, he would be done for. Who is so daring? Don't you knock on the door before coming in? Don't you know I'm resting? Get out of here. Smiling Mithriya was healing with his eyes closed. When he heard the sound of the door opening, he did not even bother to open his eyes and shouted impatiently. On the other side, the old Taoist Yen Long was sleeping. After hearing the sound, he did not pay attention to it. He directly turned over and continued to sleep. Oh, so we have to knock on the door? I'm sorry, I really don't know. I'll just follow the rules. A sneer appeared at the corner of Xiao Chen's mouth. He walked to the smiling Mithriya in a few steps, raised his hand and knocked him hard on the head a few times. Dong dong dong. A few muffled sounds came from the house. It sounded like the sound of a monk knocking on a wooden fish. Ouch! Under Xiao Chen's crazy knocking, the head of the smiling Mithriya directly swelled up a few big bumps. He covered his head and howled miserably. He fell to the ground and kept rolling. He only felt that his head was extremely painful, as if it was about to split open. I say, Sliced Mithriya, I think you can change your name to Sliced Buddha in the future. I also helped you upgrade, right? Why don't you quickly set up 8 or 10 tables to thank me? Xiao Chen looked at the smiling Mithriya on the ground and said lightly. Looking at the smiling Mithriya on the ground with big bumps on his head at first glance, he really looked like a Buddha. Xiao Chen. It's you? Why are you here? On the other side, Taoist Yen Long was roused by the miserable shriek. He sat up in dissatisfaction and was about to grumble. But when he saw Xiao Chen standing in the room with his arms crossed, he couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Looking at the smiling Mithriya rolling around on the ground with his head in his hands, cold sweat suddenly appeared on old Taoist Yen Long's forehead. He secretly cursed his bad luck. He thought that they had finally managed to get rid of him, but he did not expect to meet this jinx again. Oh, you forgot to take the Flying Star legendary sword just now. I'm sorry. How can the people of Joyful Clan lack cheap? Wouldn't it be bad if this spread out? So I sent the cheap to you. Look at how good my after-sales service is. Xiao Chen did not even look at old Taoist Yen Long and said expressionlessly. The smiling Mithriya operated his heart sutra and suppressed the pain on his head with great difficulty. He staggered and climbed up. When he heard Xiao Chen's words, he was so angry that he almost fell down again. He could only clench his teeth and said, So it's like this. Thank you, Hero Xiao Chen. And you're welcome. Please call me Hero White Fox. Xiao Chen nodded and took out the Flying Star legendary sword and threw it in front of the smiling Mithriya. Then, he did not retract his hand but stretched it straight in front of the smiling Mithriya. What else do you want? The smiling Mithriya did not know what was going on. He looked at Xiao Chen's action in a daze and asked with a confused face. What the F***ck? Have you become stupid after being knocked? I have to knock for you again, right? Don't you need to pay for after-sales service and delivery? In order to find you, I have wasted a lot of gas money. Don't you know that my time is precious? Have you heard of an inch of time is an inch of gold? Xiao Qin suddenly said angrily. I still need to pay for this? The smiling Mithriya was stunned. He whispered a few words in his mouth, but when he saw Xiao Qin staring at him coldly, he had to nod reluctantly. Okay, then how much do you want? I don't have too much. Let me calculate for you. Xiao Qin counted on his fingers and listed them one by one. Gas, running errands, and my man-hour fees. There's also the after-sale service fees. Since you're already an old customer, I'll give you a steep discount. Give me 500 million. What? You want so much money? I don't have it. I went out in a hurry in the morning. I didn't bring money with me. The smiling Mithriya's face shrank. He felt bitter in his heart. The Xiao Qin is too much. He wants 500 million in one go. Why not just rob? *CK your grandpa. You just robbed 200 million. Don't think that I don't know. Hurry up, take it out. Xiao Qin saw that the smiling Mithriya was not being honest. He raised his hand and knocked him hard. The pain made him wail again. Chapter 839. Don't call. I'll pay, okay? Smiling Mithriya covered his head with one hand in pain. He quickly took out his bank card with the other hand and handed it over. There are 200 million in it. Take it. That's more like it. Xiao Qin took the bank card and said impatiently, don't pretend to be a dead dog. There are still 500 million left. When will you give it to me? I don't have much patience. What? Isn't it 300 million? Why is it still 500 million? You must have calculated wrongly. Smiling Mithriya was dumbfounded and asked in surprise. Oh, I'm not good at calculation. Now it's 500 million. Do you think it's wrong? If you let me calculate it again, it might be 800 million. Are you sure you want me to calculate it again? Xiao Qin shook his legs and asked faintly. There's no need to calculate. I'll pay. Smiling Mithriya choked and said helplessly. This Xiao Qin was a hothead. Trying to reason with him was asking for trouble. Wait. I seem to have calculated wrongly. Xiao Qin suddenly waved his hand and touched his chin as if he was thinking. Smiling Mithriya's eyes lit up. He was a little happy in his heart. Could it be that Xiao Qin found his conscience and only wanted to take 500 million? Xiao Qin thought for a while and said slowly, you see, you drove the people of the Greenstone sect out and let them sleep on the streets. You are here to enjoy yourself. Shouldn't you give some money as compensation? This. It's a misunderstanding. Smiling Mithriya's face collapsed and he almost cried. He only realized now that Xiao Qin was standing up for the people of the Greenstone sect. He had hit the muzzle. Xiao Qin didn't listen to smiling Mithriya's explanation at all. He said directly, let's do it this way. I won't charge you too much. 100 million for the accommodation, 100 million for the herbs you used, and 100 million for the special services. That's a total of 300 million. You'll pay me another 1 billion, right? The smiling Mithriya became even more depressed. He could not help but defend himself. Even if I stayed in this crappy place for a while and used those trashy, ordinary healing medicine, it shouldn't cost 200 million, right? And that special service, I didn't even ask for it. Why did it need another 100 million? I was just fooling around with them. Besides, this isn't 1 billion, right? Playing around? Why don't you eat a *t if it's fun to eat a *t? Xiao Qin's face sank. He glared at the smiling Mithriya and said, you still dare to play dumb? Just now, the acting sect leader of the Green Rock sect personally cooked for you. Even I don't get such treatment. How is this service not special? How is it too much to charge you 100 million? Cut the crap and take out the money. 1 billion isn't right. Do you need me to calculate it for you? This? Alright, then give me some time. I'll make a call to transfer the money. The smiling Mithriya took out his phone with a sullen expression. While he was bowing his head, he secretly winked at the old Taoist Yanlong, indicating for him to sneak an attack on Xiao Qin. After half a day of healing, the old Taoist Yanlong had basically recovered. Receiving the look from the smiling Mithriya, he nodded slightly and stood up without batting an eyelid. He slowly approached Xiao Qin's back. Oh, then go ahead and fight. Since we have nothing to do now, why don't I demonstrate this magical weapon to you again? Xiao Qin looked as if he did not feel anything. Instead, he was in a good mood. He waved his fingers and shouted, Flying Star Sword, unsheath. The Flying Star Sword moved. With a swoosh, it automatically broke free from its sheath and slashed twice in the air. The old Taoist Yanlong had gradually approached Xiao Qin. Just as he was about to make his move, he heard Xiao Qin shout, "Go!" Then the flying star sword flew in his direction. An extremely light sound was heard. Before the old Taoist Yan Long could understand what was going on, the flying star sword had already pierced into his forehead. The old Taoist Yan Long's eyes suddenly turned over. He directly fell to the ground dead. "Oh, why is there someone standing behind me?" Xiao Qin turned his head, his expression extremely surprised. The old Taoist Yan Long did not utter a word. He had already lost his life. Even if he wanted to cry out for injustice, there was no place to cry out. "Look at this mess." Xiao Qin turned around and said to the smiling Maitreya with an apologetic face, "I was thinking of showing you the function of the flying star sword. Otherwise, if you don't believe me, I can't let you spend your 500 million in vain, can I? So I wanted to make sure that there is no problem with the sword. This unlucky guy, why did he choose to stand behind me? Wasn't he lying on the side just now?" In fact, how powerful was Xiao Qian's divine sense? As soon as the old Taoist Yan Long moved, he had immediately noticed it. Therefore, he controlled the flying sword to attack immediately and directly stab the old Taoist Yan Long to death. The smiling Maitreya had long been scared stiff. What the hell was going on? Did Xiao Qin really not know, or did he do it deliberately? Could it really be an accident? However, whether it was an accident or not, he did not dare to act rashly again. He could only honestly transfer 500 million to Xiao Qin and another 500 million to Zheng Xinxiang. Looking at the money flowing away, the smiling Maitreya's heart was bleeding. "The hero Xiao Qin, the money has been transferred. Can I go now?" After the transfer, the smiling Maitreya asked cautiously. He prayed in his heart that this evil god would quickly drive him away. Otherwise, he did not know if he would lose a lot of money. "Well, I received it. You are welcome to spend again next time." Xiao Qin received the text message of the transfer. Seeing that the smiling Maitreya was anxious to escape, he grabbed his shoulder and said with a smile, "Wait. What's the hurry? I'm a little hungry. You go and make me a bowl of knife-shaved noodles. I want a big bowl." What? I still want to eat knife-shaved noodles? I don't know how to do it." The smiling Maitreya said with a bitter face. He was going crazy. He thought that it would be over after giving the money. He did not expect Xiao Qin to fantasize and ask him to make knife-shaved noodles. What is he doing? You don't know how to do it? Do you dare to lie to me? Are you trying to trick me into not learning Chinese well? Let me tell you, this young master is a straight A student in school. Everything I say or do is awesome. If you don't know knife-shaved noodles, how can you call yourself a knife-shaved Maitreya? Hurry up and do it." Xiao Qin slammed the table and glared. Okay. The smiling Maitreya nodded helplessly. He secretly complained in his heart. "How can you be a top student and a top student? Do you know how to count? Besides, isn't knife-shaved noodles the nickname you gave me? It's obvious that you are scamming me." However, the smiling Maitreya only dared to think about it in his heart. He absolutely did not dare to say it out. "Come, Brother Xiang, Senior Gu, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Sit down and have a drink." Xiao Qin greeted them enthusiastically and turned to the smiling Maitreya. "By the way, knife-shaved noodles, are your disciples idle? Ask them to be waiters. Hurry up." Oh. The smiling Maitreya was preparing to knife-shaved noodles. Hearing this, he had to respond gloomily. He went to wake up the joyous clan disciples with a black face. After waking up the disciples, the smiling Maitreya went to the kitchen. He wanted to take the opportunity to escape, but after thinking for a while, he remembered that the flying star sword was still inserted in the head of the old Taoist Yan Long. If Xiao Qin chased him with the flying sword, he would definitely not be able to escape. However, he could not stay. He did not know how to make knife-shaved noodles at all. If he did not do it well and provoked Xiao Qin, then his life would probably end here. Xiao Qin was simply a devil who killed without batting an eyelid. In just half a day's time, his two senior brothers had fallen into his hands. He remembered that he and his senior brother had chased him into a sorry state. Now the tables had turned, and it was finally his turn to suffer. In desperation, the smiling Maitreya had to find a disciple who knew how to make noodles and sent him to cook knife-shaved noodles. He hid in a corner and secretly called the head of the joyous clan to report the current situation to him. After all, his senior brother and the old Taoist Yan Long had died in the hands of Xiao Qin. He had to inform the head of such a big matter. The head of the joyous clan was speechless after hearing it. He was extremely shocked by Xiao Qian's strength. For a moment, he could not think of a suitable way to deal with him. He could only instruct the smiling Mithriya to act according to the circumstances. It would be best to find a chance to withdraw and then consider other things. Great hero Xiaoqin, it's all thanks to your help today. I'll remember this kindness. If you need my help in the future, just let me know as soon as possible. Our Green Rock sect will definitely go through fire and water for you without hesitation. After settling his master on the bed, Jing Xinxiang cupped his hands at Xiaoqin gratefully. He did not expect Xiaoqin to be so powerful. With just a casual move, the problem was solved and he had regained the territory of the Green Rock sect. It's nothing. It's just a small effort. Xiaoqin waved his hand and said with a smile, just call me Xiaoqin. I'm not a hero. With our friendship, you don't have to be so polite. Jing Xinxiang smiled honestly and nodded heavily. He was not good at speaking, so he could only remember this gratitude in his heart. Xiaoqin smiled slightly and handed the bank card to Jing Xinxiang. Brother Xiang, you keep this money? Buy some tonics for Senior Gu and renovate the Green Rock sect. This should be enough. How can I do that? I'll just take back my 200 million. As for the 500 million that was transferred later, it's yours. You've already done me a big favor. How can I ask for your money again? Jing Xinxiang quickly waved his hand and refused. He still understood this etiquette. After all, he had already asked for the money for him. How could he accept another share? Even if Xiaoqin took away the 200 million, he would not have the slightest complaint. You are treating me like an outsider. Moreover, I came to the Green Rock sect this time mainly to help Senior Gu treat his illness. Dealing with the smiling Mithriya is just a matter of convenience, so you should accept this money. Xiaoqin did not care about Jing Xinxiang's refusal and directly stuffed the card into his hand. Well then thank you Xiaoqin, thank you. Jing Xinxiang glanced at Gu Chongyi and found that he nodded slightly at him. He did not say anything more. He thanked him and accepted the card. Chapter 840. It's all thanks to Xiaoqin today that the Greenstone sect's territory wasn't taken away by thieves. At this moment, Gu Chongyi spoke up. He first thanked Xiaoqin before saying, as for my illness, thank you very much for your concern, little friend Xiaoqin. I have been suffering from a chronic illness for many years. During this period, I have visited many medical experts. Unfortunately, none of them could do anything about it. I'm afraid you've made a wasted trip. Gu Chongyi wasn't looking down on Xiaoqin's medical skills. It was just that he'd been hopeful and disappointed for the past few years. He was already disheartened. Hee Senior Gu, you're worrying too much. Xiaoqin didn't want to brag about his medical skills. He walked directly to Gu Chongyi, sat down and said, let me take your pulse first. Okay, then I'll have to trouble hero Xiaoqin. Gu Chongyi nodded and slowly stretched out his hand. Senior, just call me Xiaoqin. Hero or whatever, it's just a fleeting cloud. Xiaoqin laughed at himself. As soon as his finger touched the vein on Gu Chongyi's wrist, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. What's there to take? He's like this because he's carelessly cultivating his mental cultivation method, causing many of the meridians in his body to stagnate. I really don't understand. What's this kid thinking? He's cultivating the righteous mental cultivation method well, but he insists on cultivating the demonic mental cultivation method. He's lucky that he didn't go berserk. Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice was full of contempt. Elder Heaven Ancestor, don't make sarcastic remarks. How are you going to treat his illness? Xiaoqin asked calmly in his mind. Gu Chongyi looked so old that he could be his grandfather, but Elder Heaven Ancestor still called him a kid. If Gu Chongyi heard this, he would probably die of anger. This is just a small problem. It's not hard to cure. I'll tell you the prescription so you can memorize it. The Elder Heaven Ancestor didn't beat around the bush and directly listed out a bunch of medicine names. Xiaoqin nodded slightly and pretended to finish feeling the pulse. He retracted his hand and pondered for a while. Then he asked Jing Xinxiang to bring him a pen and paper and directly copied down the prescription that the Elder Heaven Ancestor said. After writing it, Xiaoqin checked it again and after confirming that there were no mistakes, he handed the prescription to Jing Xinxiang. Brother Xiang, this is for you. Senior Gu's chronic illness was caused by the stagnation of his meridians. As long as you decoct the medicine according to the prescription and take it while it's hot, I believe that Senior Gu will be able to recover very soon. Just that simple? Jing Xinxiang looked down at the prescription and found that the herbs on it were very common. There were no natural treasures added. He blurted out in disbelief. If these medicines could be used to treat illnesses, then what was the point of desperately saving money to buy a 1,000-year-old purple snow lotus? Gu Chongyi also saw the prescription. but he didn't say anything. He thought that Xiao Qin shouldn't be joking. Although the herbs written in the prescription weren't precious, he didn't have any enmity with him. He even helped Jing Xinxiang, so there was no need for him to make a fake prescription to fool him. However, Gu Chongyi didn't have much hope that this prescription could cure his illness. He had taken many medicines over the years, both good and bad, but none of them could treat his illness. Yes, it's that simple. Take it once to treat the symptoms, take it twice to treat the root cause. Believe me, there's no mistake. Xiao Qin smiled and patted Jing Xinxiang's shoulder. Okay, I believe you, Hero Xiao Qin. It just so happens that we have these herbs in reserve in the warehouse. I'll go and brew the medicine now. Jing Xinxiang saw that his master didn't stop him, so he nodded and ran out with the prescription. Not long after Jing Xinxiang went out, the smiling Maitreya brought in a few disciples with knife-shaved noodles. He even personally served a bowl of it to Xiao Qin and Gu Chongyi and placed it on the table respectfully. Then he stood by the side and waited for his orders. Knife-shaved Maitreya, I didn't expect your skills to be so good. If you can't survive in the joyful clan in the future, set up a noodle stall on the morning market street in Songning City. When the time comes, you'll work with me. I'll sell youtiao and you'll sell knife-shaved noodles. The money will be mine. Xiao Qin ate a few mouthfuls of knife-shaved noodles and said without lifting his head. Sure. Thank you, Hero Xiao Qin, for your appreciation. I wonder if Hero Xiao Qin has any other instructions? The smiling Maitreya rubbed his hands and smiled, flattering him like a servant. Oh, that's it for now. Do you want to continue staying here? Or do you want to return home? If you want to continue staying in the Greenstone sect, that's fine too. We can discuss the accommodation fee. I'll get Brother Xiang to give you a discount. Xiao Qin crossed his legs and looked at the smiling Maitreya from head to toe with a mocking face. Oh, thank you, Hero Xiao Qin, for your kindness. It's getting late and I should return to the joyful clan. I won't disturb Hero Xiao Qin and the rest of the Greenstone sect any longer. Goodbye. The smiling Maitreya smiled apologetically, but in his heart, he was scolding Xiao Qin. Staying here for a night costs 100 million. Do you really think I'm a sucker? When I wake up tomorrow morning, you'll ask me to make breakfast or something. Then won't I really become your servant? Wait. Seeing that the smiling Maitreya was about to leave, Xiao Qin suddenly stopped him. The smiling Maitreya stopped, feeling anxious. This Jinx wouldn't come up with some tricks again, right? Xiao Qin waved his hand and pulled out the flying star sword from the head of the old Taoist Yanlong with a whoosh. Then he directly put it in the hands of the smiling Maitreya. Remember to take this sword with you. If you have any problems, remember to look for me at any time. I'll definitely help you with the after-sales service. Oh, and the old Taoist Yanlong, you can take him with you. Yes. The smiling Maitreya nodded hurriedly. When the flying star sword flew towards him just now, he thought that Xiao Qin was going to kill him directly. He was almost scared to the point of peeing. Looking at the shocking blood stains on the sword, the smiling Maitreya's eyelids twitched violently. The flesh on his face trembled twice. He quickly ordered his disciples to carry the old Taoist Yanlong, and the group of people quickly left the Greenstone sect. When Xiao Qin had just finished eating the knife-shaved noodles, Jing Xinxiang had already boiled the medicine and brought it over. After Gu Chongyi took the medicine, he immediately felt that several stagnant meridians in his body showed signs of loosening. He was immediately surprised and delighted. He quickly sat cross-legged and began to digest the medicine. After adjusting his breath, Gu Chongyi found that his strength, which had almost dried up, had begun to gradually recover. His face became more and more ruddy, and his whole spirit and appearance were refreshed. Feeling this, Gu Chongyi believed that after taking another dose of medicine, he would be able to recover completely. Seeing that his master really had an effect after drinking the medicine prescribed by Xiao Qin, Jing Xinxiang was even more grateful to Xiao Qin. Not only did he thank him repeatedly, but he also insisted that Xiao Qin stay in the Greenstone sect for one night. Xiao Qin saw that it was already very late, so he did not refuse. It just so happened that he did not want to travel at night, so he simply stayed for the night. At this time, at the foot of Greenstone Mountain, in addition to Xiao Qin's Jetta, there was another Lamborghini Batmobile that was still running and parked not far away. Shi Yuchuan and Linger were sitting in the car, feeling very puzzled. They followed Xiao Qin's Jetta to Greenstone Mountain and watched him go up the mountain. They thought that he would come down in a while, but they did not expect that after Xiao Qin went up the mountain he did not come back for a long time. The two of them discussed and decided to go up the mountain to see the situation. They climbed up the mountain in the dark. Just as the two of them walked near the Greenstone sect, they heard a wave of cursing. They were shocked and immediately found a place to hide. After hiding, the two of them listened carefully and found that it was the smiling Mithriya and his disciple who were cursing. However, their voices were getting farther and farther away, so they should have left. Judging from their tone, it seemed that they had suffered a loss in the hands of Xiao Chen. With this, the two of them confirmed that Xiao Chen was in the Greenstone sect. They did not dare to enter and could only wait in place. Shi Yuchuan wanted to take the opportunity to chat with Linger, but Linger kept a cold face and did not respond to him. He had no idea what she was thinking. In his depression, Shi Yuchuan took out his phone and lowered his head to play games. It was a quiet night until the next morning. Shi Yuchuan's phone was almost out of battery, but the two still did not find any trace of Xiao Chen. Linger thought about it for the whole night. Her expression was a little relaxed, as though she had finally thought it through. "Miss Linger, are you hungry? Do you want to have some breakfast? I brought some dry food and water. Why don't you fill your stomach?" Shi Yuchuan took out biscuits and mineral water from his backpack and handed them over with a fawning look. "There's no need. Find me all the information on Xiao Chen. I want to take a look." Linger shook her head and said coldly, "Ah, you finally thought it through?" Shi Yuchuan was stunned at first. Then his eyes lit up. He asked excitedly, "You're willing to roll in bed with Xiao Chen? You're willing to sacrifice your happiness to get him?" Ling furrowed her brows and glared fiercely at Shi Yuchuan. After a long time, she gritted her teeth and let out an N. If one didn't listen carefully, they wouldn't be able to hear it. Shi Yuchuan was overjoyed and immediately praised with a sincere expression. "Miss Ling is indeed of noble character and unquestionable integrity. I believe that when your master and your sect master find out, they will definitely be proud of you." Linger did not reply. Her hands were clenched into fists. Her face was a little pale and she looked ahead with empty eyes. Since you've already decided, don't let that bastard Xiao Chen take advantage of you. Why don't you do it with me first?" Shi Yuchuan rubbed his hands wretchedly. He was drooling. "Sure." Linger still did not look at Shi Yuchuan. She looked straight ahead and said two words. "Don't be in a hurry to reject." "What?" Shi Yuchuan thought that Linger was going to scold him like before. He was halfway through his persuasion when he suddenly realized what Linger had said. He jumped 3 feet high and his face was filled with joy. Afraid that Xiao Chen would find out, Shi Yuchuan quickly squatted down again. He looked at Linger eagerly and said, "Linger, are you serious? That's great. I'll look around to see if there are any good hotels nearby. After all, this is your first time. We have to be more formal. We can't just mess around at a roadside hotel, right?" Chapter 841. At this point, Shi Yuchuan quickly picked up his phone and stopped playing games. He kept searching for information about nearby hotels. Linger still did not look at him. Instead, she looked at the entrance of Greenstone sect and said lightly, "When the time comes, I'll tell Xiao Chen that I'm second-hand goods and that you've already played with me. Do you think he'll beat you to death when he finds out?" Shi Yuchuan's hand stopped and he subconsciously scratched his head. The Xiao Chen might really do it. Thinking back to the situation these days, those outer martial arts sects had come looking for trouble with Xiao Chen. They had played all kinds of tricks, but they were all beaten to a pulp. Whether it was the threat of force or the sect's deterrence, it had no effect on Xiao Chen at all. The Xiao Chen was so ruthless and unscrupulous. If he found out that Linger's virginity had been taken by him, he would definitely not let it go. If he were to burn his lower part in a fit of anger, then the loss would outweigh the gain. Looking at Shi Yuchuan's changing expression like a kaleidoscope, Linger's face was full of sarcasm. She despised him fiercely in her heart. "I really don't know how the Six Directions sect could cultivate such a useless person. He wants to take advantage of others, but is also overcautious and afraid of taking risks. What sect's elite, he's just a good-for-nothing." On the other hand, Xiao Chen was completely different. Although it was said that he killed without batting an eye and did not give any sect face, she had seen him almost get into a car accident in order to avoid a lamb that was crossing the highway. In the end, he even personally carried the lamb off the highway before driving away. From this, it seemed that Xiao Chen was actually a kind-hearted person. Why did she compare Xiao Chen and Shi Yuchuan again? This was really strange. Forget it. I'm still so young and I still want to live for a few more years. Thinking of the consequences, Shi Yuchuan could not help but shiver. He shook his head and suppressed the turmoil in his heart. He laughed it off and then took out Xiao Chen's information from his backpack. "It seems like you have some self-awareness. Linger looked at Shi Yuchuan coldly and collected her thoughts. She took the information from his hands and began to read it seriously. Although the information on Xiaochen was quite detailed, there was only the part about the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. There was no mention of Xiaochen's previous background and family background. Because in the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, Xiaochen's resume wasn't very glorious. They couldn't possibly write that he had killed Team C's team leader Yang Jianan and replaced him, right? If this was written, it would become a joke. If it was spread out, people would laugh their heads off. Therefore, the information only vaguely recorded that Xiaochen used to cultivate in the secular world. After his promotion, he returned to the Supernatural Investigation Bureau and took over the position of deputy director. Everything was logical and there was nothing special about it. Actually, with Zheng Shiding's ability, he could only obtain this kind of superficial information. Although the Zheng family was considered a powerful and reputable family in Lan City, they were just an ordinary character in the secular world. They were unable to come into contact with the higher levels, let alone the core of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. After Linger finished reading the information, she was even more shocked. She really didn't know how this Xiaochen cultivated. He was clearly a loose cultivator, but he was able to reach the peak of the 8th level of the Demon General in such a harsh cultivation environment in the secular world. How was this possible? He was simply a monster. One had to know that even if it was a disciple that was heavily nurtured by the inner martial arts sects, if they wanted to advance to the strength of a Demon General, they would need to spend a lot of heavenly treasures. Moreover, this disciple had to have extremely high talent, in addition to a long-term cultivation process and a chance for enlightenment. Xiaochen was only a loose cultivator without any background, but he actually had such a profound realm at such a young age. Linger couldn't understand it no matter how she thought about it. She felt that it was very unimaginable. Miss Linger, be careful. Xiaochen is coming out. Linger was pondering over her own thoughts when Shi Yuchuan suddenly reminded her. Linger raised her head and looked over. As expected, she saw Xiaochen walking out from the Green Rock sect. The two of them hurriedly hid behind a large rock, praying that Xiaochen wouldn't discover them. Xiaochen had actually discovered that the two of them were hiding not too far away. However, he couldn't be bothered to expose them. He directly passed the large rock and walked down the mountain without looking sideways. He had rested in the Green Rock sect for a night. He had just bid farewell to Zheng Xinxiang and his master, Gu Chongyi, and was preparing to continue on his journey. After waiting for Xiaochen's figure to disappear at the foot of the mountain, Shi Yuchuan finally let out a sigh of relief. He stood up and asked politely, "Miss Linger, you've finished reading the information. Have you considered it?" "I'll go tonight." Linger was silent for a moment before saying through gritted teeth, Good. Shi Yuchuan quickly nodded. Seeing that he couldn't woo Linger, and that there was no chance of anything happening between them, he might as well shed all pretense of cordiality. He bluntly said, "A long night is fraught with dreams. I think it's better to get this done as soon as possible. Work harder tonight. No matter what means you have to use, you must get the information and the meteoric iron." "Oof, I know. Can you stop wasting my time? Are you done with your blabbering?" Linger coldly snorted and glared at him. This Shi Yuchuan really couldn't spit out ivory from a dog's mouth. He simply wouldn't change. Don't be angry. Come, Miss Linger, drink some water to calm down." Shi Yuchuan smiled shyly. He then took out a bottle of mineral water from his bag, opened the cap and handed it to Linger. "Thank you." After hesitating for a moment, Linger still reached out to take it. If it was any other time, Linger would definitely reject it. But now she knew that Shi Yuchuan wanted her to hook up with Xiaochen, so he definitely wouldn't do anything to her. Moreover, Shi Yuchuan opened the bottle in front of her, so there was no chance for him to do anything. After squatting in the cold mountain for a night, Linger was really thirsty, so she took a small sip. After drinking it, Linger didn't feel anything strange, so she was relieved. Looking at Linger drinking the water, Shi Yuchuan's mouth flashed an imperceptible sneer. He then pretended to be gentle and said, "Miss Linger, look, Xiaochen has already driven off. Let's hurry up and catch up." Linger stood up and walked down the mountain with Shi Yuchuan. Shi Yuchuan was in a good mood. On the way down the mountain, he didn't forget to talk to Linger. "Oh yeah. Tonight is your first time. A woman's first time will inevitably be a little painful. After we get in the car, I will teach you some positions that can reduce the pain. I guarantee that you can." "Oh my God." Shi Yuchuan waved his hands and feet as he spoke. The more he spoke, the more excited he became. He didn't pay attention to the steps under his feet. As a result, he stepped on nothing and rolled down the mountain directly. Pervert. Linger quickly ran to the foot of the mountain and kicked Shi Yuchuan fiercely. Are you dead? If you're not dead, get up quickly. Hurry up and drive. Xiao Chen has already disappeared. Didn't you see? Hiss. Shi Yuchuan covered his buttocks and stood up with his teeth bared. He didn't dare to argue with Linger. He limped into the car and stepped on the accelerator to chase the back of Xiao Chen's Jetta. To Xiao Chen's surprise, no Wuling sects came to find trouble with him for the whole day. This made him greatly relieved. It seemed that these people had already given up. As for the two followers behind him, Xiao Chen didn't take them to heart at all. Since they liked to eat the dust behind his butt, then let them be. Anyway, they posed no threat to him. Xiao Chen thought that he could finally have a good sleep tonight. However, while driving, Xiao Chen was thinking about it. These two people seem to have been guarding outside the Green Rock sect all night last night, right? Could it be, in this wilderness they took the opportunity to have a wild sex? Linger sat in the passenger seat of the Lamborghini and suddenly shivered. She was also a little inexplicable. She didn't know why. Could it be that she had caught a cold after staying on the mountain all night? In the evening, Xiao Chen got off the highway and found a hotel to stay in. As soon as Xiao Chen got into the elevator, Shi Yuchuan and Linger followed him in. After they used some tricks to find out Xiao Chen's room number, they also got 2 rooms and stayed opposite and next to him. When he came to the room, Xiao Chen first took a shower and then sat on the bed to practice for a while. Recently, he had fought with a lot of Wuling people, but he never felt the opportunity to break through. He couldn't even touch the barrier of the second level of the Golden Core stage. Xiao Chen couldn't help but have some doubts in his heart. Was it because those enemies were too weak so they didn't help his practice? After practicing for a while, Xiao Chen found that his progress was still slow, so he simply stopped. After all, he had been driving and fighting for the past few days, which was also very exhausting. He simply lay down and prepared to rest. It didn't take long for him to fall asleep. In the middle of the night, a petite figure pushed open the door of the room and tiptoed in. Although the person didn't make any sound, Xiao Chen still woke up as soon as the other party pushed the door. However, he didn't alert the enemy. He still squinted his eyes and pretended to be asleep. But in his heart, he was thinking, how could someone dare to come to trouble me? Is there an end to this? A few days have passed. The news that those sects suffered at my hands should have spread, right? There are really people who are not afraid of death? Sensing that the person was getting closer and closer to him, Xiao Chen was about to get up and make a move, but he felt that the person suddenly sat on the edge of his bed. He was a little puzzled. What kind of trick is this? Observing the figure of the person with his divine sense, Xiao Chen felt that something was wrong. Huh? This person seems a little familiar. There seems to be a faint fragrance on the body. It seems to be a woman? Opening his eyes slightly, Xiao Chen immediately confirmed his guess. The person was actually Ling, and at this time she had already stretched out her hand and touched his face. Chapter 842. Xiao Chen was a little puzzled. This chick has been following me for a few days. Is she going to make a move now? Could it be that she doesn't put my strength in her eyes? Moreover, she usually looks like a lady from a wealthy family. I didn't expect her to have so many tricks up her sleeves. She actually knows how to sneak attack in the middle of the night. She probably learned it from Shi Yuchuan. What are you doing? Did you come to the wrong room? Seeing that Linger's fingers were about to touch his cheek, Xiao Chen suddenly sat up and asked coldly. Ah. Linger was startled by the figure that suddenly sat up and the voice that came out of nowhere. She screamed in shock and hurriedly retracted her hand, wanting to retreat. In the end, she accidentally slipped off the edge of the bed and directly sat on the ground. What are you doing in the middle of the night? Are you trying to scare me to death? Xiao Chen helplessly dug his buzzing ears. He didn't expect that Linger could actually shout at such a high decibel with such a petite body. He almost pierced his eardrums. I came woo-woo. Linger sat on the ground and didn't plan to get up. She mumbled a few words and covered her face to cry. Before coming, Linger had already thought about it. Isn't there a saying that men can't stand seeing women cry? So she planned to use this point to gradually make Xiao Chen take the bait. If you have something to say it quickly. Why are you crying in the middle of the night? People who don't know would think that my place is haunted. If there's nothing else, you can go out. I'm going to sleep. Xiao Chen looked at Linger inexplicably. He didn't know why she was crying. He simply waved his hand impatiently to dismiss her. Seeing that Xiao Chen was different from a normal man. Not only did he not comfort her, but he also had a tough attitude. Linger was slightly stunned and couldn't figure out his thoughts for a while. But looking at Xiao Chen's frightening gaze, Linger immediately reacted and began to cry again. Oh, I have something. Hero, please listen to me, I came here to seek protection. That sure Yuchuan he's trying to harm me. Oh? This guy is too much. Xiao Chen sneered in his heart, but on the surface, his face was filled with righteous indignation, and he said very angrily. You think so too, right? Ling Er was delighted. It seemed that this Xiao Chen was about to take the bait. She quickly put on a pitiful look and said, Your skills are so powerful, you won't leave a weak girl like me to die, right? Oh, no problem. Isn't it just teaching a lesson to an idiot? This great hero can easily slap him to death. But if you want me to take action, you have to pay an appearance fee. At first, Xiao Chen took on everything, but then he changed the topic, grinned, and said casually. With regards to Linger's words, Xiao Chen naturally did not believe a single word. You and that idiot Shi Yuchuan have been following me for so many days. If there was something going on, it would have happened long ago, right? You still have the nerve to come here and pretend to be wronged? And your acting is too bad, I can even give you a Golden Plum Award. But on the surface, Xiao Chen did not show it. He watched Linger self-directed, and he also wanted to know what kind of game she was playing. In the past few days, Xiao Chen had seen all kinds of strange reasons for robbery. Among them, there were people who pretended to be old people to extort money, and there were people who deliberately changed lanes in front of their own cars. In short, there were all kinds of new ideas, emerging in an endless stream. All the big sects had racked their brains, insisting on finding some trouble for him, but their purpose was the same. It was for the extraterrestrial meteoric iron and the forging materials in his hands. However, this was the first time that Linger's trick of pretending to be pitiful and asking for help was really Xiao Chen's first time seeing it. Touching his chin and looking at Linger, Xiao Chen thought, she should be seducing me, right? Finally, there's something new. I wonder if I can summon the dragon god if I gather all 7 robbery reasons? Why do you still want money? Aren't heroes supposed to help the weak? If you accept money, the nature of it will change. When Linger heard Xiao Chen's words, she was a little puzzled. She even forgot to pretend to cry. Isn't this Xiao Chen a little too tacky? The first thing he says is money. You're not talking about a hero, I'm talking about a good person. A hero also needs to support his family. Speaking of this, Xiao Chen changed the topic and said with a smile, but, seeing that you're so beautiful and that hero is not unreasonable, I can give you a discount. How about this, you just give me a red packet as a token of appreciation. Xiao Chen purposely put on a lecherous look, his eyes constantly sizing up Linger. She was originally a pretty girl, and when she cried, she was like a pear blossom in the rain. She was delicate and lovely, making people want to protect her. Hero, you're really a good person. It seems that I didn't find the wrong person. With your words, I'm relieved. Linger deliberately patted her towering chest, but in her heart, her impression of Xiao Chen was very bad. I can't believe that he looks so righteous, but he's actually a guy who is greedy for beauty. The two of them rambled on about some unimportant topics. Linger kept trying to get to the main topic as soon as possible, but Xiao Chen maintained an unhurried attitude. No matter how Linger tried to seduce and tease him, he did not respond at all. It was as if this matter had nothing to do with him, and he was high and aloof. Hero, it's so hot in your room. Is the air conditioner broken? It didn't take long for Linger to feel a little hot and uneasy. She casually complained, took off her coat, and directly threw it aside. Oh, it might be. If you feel hot, I'll turn down the air conditioner. Xiao Chen said, coming. This chick is really good at pretending. This time she finally can't help but get to the main topic, right? Xiao Chen casually picked up the remote control and adjusted the temperature up and down. His eyes were staring at Linger's direction, wanting to see what tricks she was playing. I still feel hot all over, can you hug me? Linger didn't know what was wrong with her. She felt that her body was particularly hot, and she really wanted a hug to cool it down. She quickly disarmed her body and directly threw herself into Xiao Chen's arms. She hugged his waist tightly and kept panting. This isn't good, right? After all, men and women shouldn't touch each other. If this gets out, I'm afraid it will damage our reputation. Xiao Chen said so, but his hands didn't move. Looking at Linger, who took the initiative, Xiao Chen curled his lips. If you want a hug, then hug. You're not afraid of suffering, why should I be afraid? I don't care, I just want to hug you, ouch. Your clothes are really in the way, it hurts. Linger said coquettishly. Her hands exerted force and she rolled onto the bed with Xiao Chen. She began to frantically take off his clothes, and when she couldn't take them off, she directly tore them apart. Her eyes were full of burning desire. Damn, I really didn't know that you're so proactive. Looking at Linger, who was as cold as an iceberg, becoming so passionate, Xiao Chen couldn't help but tease her. However, after being provoked by Linger for a while, he suddenly felt a ball of fire in his lower abdomen. Although his body had a reaction, Xiao Chen was very calm. The corner of his mouth slightly raised. You keep pretending. Continue pretending. I want to see how far you can go. You took off all my clothes to take the opportunity to steal my meteoric iron and forging materials, right? Unfortunately, you're wasting your time. I've already hidden everything properly. In the end, what Xiao Chen didn't expect was that Linger actually flipped over and sat on him. Before Xiao Chen could react, he heard Linger scream, "Ah, it hurts." However, it didn't take long before it was replaced by excited gasps. Xiao Chen was instantly stunned. What the F***ck? This girl is actually playing for real? Isn't this a little too bold? While Xiao Chen was in a daze, Elder Heaven Ancestor suddenly reminded him, "Xiao Chen, she was drugged. Do you really think it's an act?" Damn. Elder Heaven Ancestor, you scared me. Didn't you say that you don't take the initiative to poke your nose into other people's business? Xiao Chen almost had a mental breakdown after being frightened like that. Fortunately, Elder Sky only said, "Then I won't remind you next time." After that, he didn't continue speaking and fell silent. Since he knew the truth, Xiao Chen could only let Linger wriggle on top of him. He knew that this was a kind of detoxification process. If he pushed Linger away by force, there might be a problem. However, during this process, Xiao Chen gradually felt that the energy in his body seemed to be expanding. That feeling was so wonderful that he could not help but immerse himself in it. He even began to unconsciously start to cooperate with Linger's movements. After a long time, both of them were shocked. It was finally over. Linger was so tired that she collapsed to the side. She kept panting. She had also regained consciousness, but at the same time she was stunned. Sob, sob, sob. How could I really do such a thing? Linger covered her face and cried. This time she was really sad. Crystal clear tears flowed down from the gaps of her fingers. Before coming to Xiao Chen's room, she deliberately looked up some ways to hook up with men on the internet. Originally, she thought that as long as she showed a little cleavage or a little leg, she would be able to get Xiao Chen to take the bait. She did not expect that she would inexplicably have a hard fight with him. Why are you crying again? You look like a crying bag. Didn't you take the initiative to throw yourself into my arms? Can you blame me? Xiao Chen looked at Linger with a puzzled look. You took the medicine and came to sleep with me. Now that it's over, you're crying. It's like I raped you. What's going on? I had no other choice, so I did it. Who knew? Who knew that it would become real? It was my first time. Linger said while sobbing. Thinking that she had already lost her chastity, she couldn't help but feel sad. Her tears that had already stopped flowed out again. Chapter 843. Oh, I saw you hooking up with that pretty boy and thought you had already slept with him. I didn't expect that you're actually a... Xiao Chen was a little surprised when he heard this. He couldn't help but rub his nose awkwardly. If he had known that Linger was still a virgin, he would have controlled himself just now. However, it seemed that he was caught off guard. What pretty boy? Are you talking about Shi Yuchuan? Why would I hook up with him? I don't like a shameless B****starred like him. Linger stopped crying and said with a look of disdain. Of course I'm not talking about Shi Yuchuan. I'm talking about the pretty boy you quarreled with in the Hakuramata Desert. His name is... something. Xiao Chen shook his head and explained. Ah, you. How did you know that I quarreled with Luochen? Were you nearby at that time? Linger was stunned for a moment and tried hard to recall the situation. She didn't remember seeing Xiao Chen at that time. Perhaps she wasn't paying attention. After all, she was only concerned about getting back the spiritual jade from Luochen and didn't pay much attention to her surroundings. Gosh, don't tell me you're still in the dark and don't know who I am? Xiao Chen was speechless. Although he was wearing a mask at that time, Linger had been following him for so many days. Her figure and voice were the same. She could basically guess who he was with just a little bit of thought. I really don't know. Don't keep me in suspense. Tell me, who are you? Linger was instantly anxious as she looked at Xiao Chen and asked urgently. I am Xiao Chong. It's just that I was wearing a mask just like you. Now my face is my real face. You're too slow. You can't even guess such an obvious question? Xiao Chen was a little speechless at Linger's slow reaction and could only say this helplessly. Ah, how could it be you? Ling Er gasped and covered her mouth in shock. He never imagined that Xiao Chen and Xiao Chang were actually the same person. After figuring out Xiao Chen's true colors, Ling Er's face flushed red again. She recalled how Xiao Chen had confidently declared that she was his wife in front of An Luochen. She didn't know if he still meant what he said then. If that's the case, then I won't lose too much tonight. After all, I gave my first time to Xiao Chen's husband, so it's not a big deal. Why can't it be me? I'm a good man. I'm 24K Jin Chun, the handsome Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen cleared his throat and said righteously with his head held high and chest puffed out. Pfft. Ling Er couldn't help but laugh through her tears. She was still a little shy at first, but now she also let go of it. However, she quickly retracted her smile and asked with a face full of suspicion, I still don't quite believe you. I remember that in the Hakura Mata desert, weren't you only a level 4 magician? How did he become so powerful now? Did you ride a rocket to level up? Something like that. What's there to be surprised about? When I participate in the Demon Gates leader election, wouldn't I be a level 6 demon general? Did you forget? Xiao Chen shrugged and said indifferently. That means we meet again. Ling Er began to count with her fingers. According to your logic, you already have the strength of a demon king? Ding dong. You guessed it right. However, there's no reward. I'm now at the peak of level 2 demon king. Impressive, right? Don't you admire me? Xiao Chen deliberately posed in a bodybuilding pose. Ling Er giggled and the tears in her eyes disappeared. She pointed at Xiao Chen and shook her head. She laughed so hard that she couldn't say anything. Xiao Chen was unmoved. He still said proudly, You just said that you came here to seek my protection? Don't worry. It's a piece of cake for me to kill that stupid Shi Chuan. I'll help you get rid of him later. I don't believe it. Ling Er finally had enough laughing. She took a breath, curled her lips and looked at Xiao Chen proudly. What demon king? You're clearly at the peak of level 8 demon general, and you're also the deputy director of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. I've investigated you. I already have all your information. Speaking of this, Ling Er couldn't help but secretly smack her lips. She felt that Xiao Chen's training method was too amazing. In just a few months, he actually rose from the strength of level 4 demon master to the peak of level 8 demon general. If it weren't for some fortuitous encounter in the middle, then Xiao Chen was definitely a genius among geniuses in training. Oh, that's amazing. Xiao Chen echoed indifferently and asked, So, why did you come to me? Don't tell me it's just to discuss my cultivation? Or is it just to *CK me once and then leave? Actually, Xiao Chen naturally understood the purpose of Ling Er's visit. However, since she didn't want to say it, there was no need for him to point it out for her. What? *CK you once? Ling Er's eyes widened in disbelief. Her face was instantly filled with an aggrieved expression. She pitifully pointed at her fingers and said, Just now, you were the one who insisted on doing that with me. Why are you blaming me for it? You're really unreasonable. However, just as she finished speaking, Ling Er suddenly remembered that it seemed like it was indeed her who wanted to *CK Xiao Chen. Just now, she took the initiative to jump into his arms and even took off his clothes. Although her memory after being drugged was a little fuzzy, the scene that remained in her mind was indeed her riding on Xiao Chen's body. After recalling it, Ling Er instantly felt her entire face burning up. She lowered her head in embarrassment. Alright, let's not care about who did who first. I mean, the real reason you're looking for me is because you want the forging information and the meteoric iron on me, right? Xiao Chen did not mind. He shrugged as if nothing had happened and exposed Ling Er's intentions in a single sentence. Ling Er's expression changed. She didn't expect Xiao Chen to be so direct. After hesitating for a moment, she nodded embarrassedly. And yes, but when I found out that you were Xiao Chang, I didn't want to take your things anymore. Oh, then who sent you here? That idiot Shi Chuan definitely couldn't order you around. Could it be your master, Grandma Nanshan? Xiao Chen asked as he rested his chin on his hand. He was indeed a little puzzled. If Grandma Nanshan had really ordered Ling Er around, then why did she want these things? I wanted it myself. No. Ling Er stammered for a while. Then she closed her eyes and made up her mind. Like a bamboo tube spilling beans, she spilled everything in detail. Actually, it was the Yin sect that I was in and the Sixth Direction sect that Shi Chuan was in. They wanted to steal your meteoric iron and forging materials. However, Shi Chuan and I were no match for you, so the sect leader of our Yin sect, The reason why Ling Er told him everything without holding anything back was mainly because she felt that Xiao Chen wasn't a bad person. In the past, the two of them had met a few times, and Xiao Chen had always stood by her side and helped her. Even when Luo Chen had swindled her of her spiritual jades and caused Xiao Chen to have no spiritual jades to use, Xiao Chen didn't hold it against her too much. This matter made her feel very guilty. She always felt that she owed Xiao Chen a lot. Therefore, even though she had given her first time to Xiao Chen now, she didn't feel that bad anymore. Instead, she felt a little fortunate. Rather than giving her first time to some random person, she might as well give it to someone she didn't hate. Well, then you're really unlucky. You actually became a sacrifice for the interests of your sect. Your master, Grandma Nanshan, is also quite pitiful. She was imprisoned for such a small matter. Your Yin sect is really willing to go all out. Xiao Chen finally understood the ins and outs of the matter. He couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He sympathized with Ling Er's plight. The people of the Yin sect were really quite shameless. They actually treated the women of their own sect like objects and sold them as they pleased. Were they still living in the feudal era? But then again, the disciples of the inner martial arts circle never had much autonomy. Especially beautiful women like Ling Er, they had even less control over their own fates. The power of life and death was in the hands of the sect, who asked them to rely on the resources of the sect to cultivate. Moreover, it was the same in the secular world, not to mention the inner martial arts circle. Didn't Miss Cheng, his own sister Xiao Xiao, and the goddess Shen Jingxian all fail to escape the vile customs of marriage between aristocratic families? The only difference was that in the end, some people successfully escaped the entanglement of fate, while others could only swallow the bitter fruit and sink deeper and deeper. Thinking of Miss Cheng, Xiao Chen's heart was moved. He wondered how she was doing in the Quishan sect. The scene of their parting seemed to be still fresh in his mind. In the blink of an eye, so much time had passed. Xiao Chen secretly made up his mind. He was prepared to personally go over and pull her out of the abyss of suffering if he had the chance. With his current strength, overthrowing the Quishan sect should be a piece of cake. Collecting his thoughts, Xiao Chen looked at the depressed Ling Er and sighed. How about this? I can secretly give you a copy of the forging information. However, let me make this clear to you first. This information might not be of much use. At most, it will be for you to report to the sect. Why is it useless? Are you going to give me a fake forging information? Ling Er originally didn't have much hope, but her eyes lit up again after hearing what Xiao Chen said. This forging information. How should I put it? Xiao Chen thought for a moment, then decided to speak the truth. Actually, there is a small problem with the information itself. However, you can just take it back. If the people in the sect ask, just tell them the truth. Alright, I'll listen to you. Then from now on, forget it, it's fine. Ling Er wanted to say something, but she shook her head halfway. She looked like she wanted to say something but stopped herself. Chapter 844. What's wrong? Just say what you want to say. With our current relationship, there's no need to be so formal. Xiao Chen saw Ling Er's reaction and said with a smile. Oh, we've already done it? Are you going to abandon me in the future? Ling Er said bitterly. She glanced at the bedsheet and then lowered her head. Her expression was a little self-reproachful. Ling Er knew that girls would bleed during their first time. However, she noticed just now that although she also felt a lot of pain, there was no blood on the bedsheet. What was going on? In Ling Er's opinion, Xiao Chen must have discovered this. Would he think that she was not a virgin at all, so he didn't care about this relationship at all and just walked away? In fact, Xiao Chen was quite puzzled. Although Ling Er was drugged, she was very proactive. He thought that she should be very experienced. However, when she started to do it for real, her expression seemed to be a little painful, and her subsequent actions were also very rusty. Could it be that she was pretending? That's too good of an act. Moreover, why was there such a big difference between before and after? Also, even if it was really Ling Er's first time, how could there be no blood on the bedsheet? Ahem, you're thinking too much. Feeling that the silence between the two of them was a little long, Xiao Chen broke the silence. After thinking about it, he asked, but I want to know, have you done it with that toy boy in before? In fact, he had already asked this question just now, but Ling Er was too emotional at that time, and the topic went astray. Now that there was a chance, Xiao Chen asked again. How is that possible? Ling Er immediately shook her head like a rattled drum. She said with a serious face, in the inner martial arts world, the ancient customs are still preserved. A woman must be faithful to one man until death. If I really did that with An Luochen, I would never leave him no matter what. So that's how it is. I didn't expect the people of the inner martial arts world to be so traditional. However, why were you sent to carry out this kind of mission? Xiao Qin sighed and asked in confusion. Because, actually, when I return to the inner martial arts world, I'll be cultivating alone for the rest of my life, and I won't be getting married again, so. Ling said with a pitiful look. She lowered her head and bit her lower lip. Oh. Xiao Qin nodded and said, I see. I believe what you said. I won't abandon you, so don't worry. After saying that, Xiao Qin gently rubbed Linger's head. You had a guess. It was probably because Linger had practiced martial arts since she was young that she accidentally broke it. This kind of thing was very common. Oh, really? Linger was surprised and overjoyed. She blinked her big eyes and blurted out. Then, she frowned slightly and tilted her head to ask, Are you saying nice things on purpose to comfort me? Of course not. Xiao Qin patted his chest and said, Don't worry, you just have to follow me from now on. No one will dare to make things difficult for you anymore. The reason why Xiao Qin dared to believe her so firmly was not because Linger looked pitiful, but because he had lost his mind. In fact, he did not have much contact with Linger. How could he just believe a few words from her? The most important thing that allowed Xiao Qin to confirm that it was Linger's first time was that when Xiao Qin was rolling in the sheets with Linger just now, he had actually silently leveled up. He was now an expert at the peak of the second level of the Golden Core stage. He did not know if it was because of Linger's superior strength, but this time not only did Xiao Qin directly break through the barrier of the second level of the Golden Core stage, but he also broke through all the obstacles and reached the peak directly. The two small breakthroughs in the middle made Xiao Qin feel extremely carefree. Therefore, Xiao Qin could determine that it was Linger's first time without a doubt. Otherwise, he would not have received such a huge benefit. Moreover, Xiao Qin clearly remembered that after he and Xin Jingxian, Lu Shuangshuang and Yi Xiaoye, his strength also increased. The process was exactly the same as this time. Therefore, he did not ask for any details at all and was certain that Linger was not lying to him. When Linger heard what Xiao Qin said, the unhappiness on her face was swept away. Her whole face was radiant. She was really happy in her heart. Xiao Qin was really a good person. Not only was he willing to take responsibility, but he also trusted her so much and did not doubt her words. She really did not misjudge him. Then I don't want your forging materials and the meteoric iron. When I go back, I will tell them that I did not get them. Although I used a honey trap, you did not take the bait. Anyway, there is such a big difference between my strength and yours. Even if the sect leader does not believe me, he will have to believe me. Linger thought about it and said bravely. Her words were completely from the bottom of her heart. Linger felt that she seemed to like Xiao Qin a little. She suddenly did not want to help the sect and cheat him of the things in his hands. Oh, it's okay. I will think of something for you. Xiao Qin seemed to be frowning and thinking, but in fact he asked in the divine sense space, Elder Heaven Ancestor, have you studied this forging materials? Can I give it to her? Of course you can. I'm still studying it, but I haven't finished studying it yet. The current result is that the forging information can indeed be used to forge the extraterrestrial meteoric iron. But after the forging, the meteoric iron will become useless and become the same as ordinary iron. Elder Heaven Ancestor quickly replied, Just in time, you can give this wrong research method to her. Along the way, Elder Heaven Ancestor had tried to fuse the forging method in his memory with the method of the material several times, but he still failed. He was thinking of a new way to try to fuse it again. So now that this useless forging materials was directly given to Xiao Qin by the Elder Heaven Ancestor, so that he could use it to harm other sections. However, Elder Heaven Ancestor still tampered with the forging materials before giving it to Xiao Qin, so that no matter what kind of metal it was used to forge, it would eventually become a pile of waste. After confirming that there was no mistake, he sent the information to Xiao Qin's mind. After receiving the information, Xiao Qin took out a pen and paper, scribbled it down, then gave the information to Linger and said, When you go back, tell your sect leader the truth. Just say that Xiao Qin said that this forging materials are not very complete, so he specially sent it to the Yanjing Research Institute for further testing, but you have to get the information first. Linger nodded and said worriedly, Yes, I will remember, but this information is copied down. I am worried that the sect leader will have doubts. That is exactly what I wanted to tell you. Xiao Qin said with a smile, If that is the case, then it is good. If he does not believe it, he will definitely send you to get another original copy. If he believes it, you can say that in order to continue to get the follow-up information, you need to take the initiative to come to me so that you can be with me. Ling Er was slightly stunned. She did not think that Xiao Chen's thoughts were so meticulous, and he could even let her come back again. It turned out that he had already considered everything. Okay, I will listen to you. Ling Er was a little touched and she nodded in agreement. She hesitated for a moment, then said, but I still have to go back first, save my master, and then bring up this matter with the sect leader. Okay, the sky is about to brighten, you should pack up and get ready to go. Don't delay it. Xiao Chen nodded and gently pinched Ling Er's cheek. That. It is still a little early and after I go back I may not be able to come out smoothly again. Don't you want to do it again? Ling Er's voice became lower and lower, and in the end, it was almost like the buzzing of a mosquito. If one did not listen carefully they would not be able to hear it. Her cheeks were also as red as an apple, and she lowered her head in embarrassment. Although this was the first time she had tasted the forbidden fruit because of the effect of the drug, the feeling was very strong. Moreover, the other party was Xiao Chen, who she started to like a little, so Ling Er was even more reluctant to leave. In addition, the two of them were about to leave and she did not know when they would meet again. It was inevitable that her heart would be a little sad. After thinking about it, it seemed that this was the only way to leave some memories. Ah! I did not expect that you would still be so active after the effect of the drug has worn off, but I like it. Xiao Chen laughed and teased a few words. He took Ling Er's hand and went back to bed. While Ling Er was being affectionate, Shi Yuchuan stayed in the opposite room. He did not sleep for the whole night. He thought that Ling Er would be able to finish quickly and come out with the results of the battle, but he did not expect that there was still no movement when the sky was about to brighten. Shi Yuchuan was very anxious, but he did not dare to barge into Xiao Chen's room. In desperation he simply walked to the corridor of the hotel, sat on the sofa, and stared at the door of Xiao Chen's room. After waiting bitterly for about an hour, he heard a click sound and the door finally opened. Shi Yuchuan's spirit was refreshed. He couldn't wait to run over, but he did not expect to almost bump into Xiao Chen. Hero Xiao Chen, how are you? How can there be such a coincidence? We are both staying on the same floor of the same hotel. It's such an honor. It's fate. Shi Yuchuan was a little embarrassed. He poked his head out to see the situation in the room, but he was grabbed by Xiao Chen. What are you looking at with your turtle head so long? Do you want to be a giraffe? Do you need me to help you stretch your neck a little longer? Xiao Chen said coldly, I guarantee that you will feel very good. Once you try it once, you will never want to do it a second time. Also, stay away from Ling Er in the future. You know that I am a ruthless person, right? Shi Yuchuan suddenly shrank his head and cursed in his heart. You are already so arrogant and you still want to do it a second time. At this time Ling Er also walked out of the room, holding the forging information that Elder Heaven Ancestor had modified. Seeing the scene in front of her, she glared at Shi Yuchuan in annoyance. Chapter 845. I know. Don't worry, Hero Xiao Chen. I promise I won't have any improper thoughts about Miss Ling Er again. Shi Yuchuan quickly nodded and bowed, but he was also pondering in his heart. Looking at the situation now, Xiao Chen is infatuated with Ling Er. But it makes sense. Ling Er is as beautiful as a fairy. Any man can't hold himself back. Seeing the information in Ling Er's hand, Shi Yuchuan secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Anyway, now that the forging information was in his hands, he didn't care so much about the rest. Then why aren't you getting lost? Are you waiting for this young master to treat you to breakfast? Xiao Chen shouted impatiently. Shi Yuchuan suddenly took 2 steps back in fear and ran in the direction of the elevator without looking back. Ling Er still wanted to say something to Xiao Chen, but she didn't know what to say at the moment. She could only reluctantly look at Xiao Chen and then left the hotel with Shi Yuchuan. After watching Ling Er leave, Xiao Chen used his phone to send her a text message, telling her not to worry too much. It wouldn't be long before the two of them could meet again. In order to facilitate future contact, the two of them left each other's phone numbers after they were intimate just now. But before Ling Er could reply, Xiao Chen's phone rang. Xiao Chen took a look and found that it was actually Yi Xiaoye calling. He was a little surprised. This chick hasn't looked for me for a long time since she returned to the sect. Xiao Yi, my wife, are you looking for me for dual cultivation again? But I have something to do now. I'll look for you after I finish the task. As soon as he picked up the phone, Xiao Chen laughed and teased. Xiao Chen, right? I didn't expect you to be so mushy. What surprised Xiao Chen was that there wasn't Yi Xiaoye's coquettish voice on the other end of the phone, but a cold middle-aged man's voice. Who are you? Why is Yi Xiaoya's phone with you? What did you do to her? Xiao Chen's tone didn't change as he asked coldly, but his heart was in turmoil. What's going on? Did something happen to Yi Xiaoya? It doesn't matter who I am. You only need to understand one thing, and that is to send the meteoric iron and forging materials to the Devil Star sect as soon as possible. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that nothing will happen to Yi Xiaoya and her master, Qi Xiangmei. The middle-aged man sneered and said in a threatening tone, their lives are all on you. A person like you who values friendship and righteousness won't ignore it, right? Do I have to believe you? How do I know you're not lying? What if you're a phone thief? Xiao Chen asked. His tone was calm, but he couldn't help but feel angry. This group of people was too outrageous. In order to obtain his forging information, he actually resorted to unscrupulous means. Now he even resorted to such despicable means as kidnapping someone close to him. Humph. You won't repent until you see the coffin. The middle-aged man snorted coldly, as if he was giving an order to someone while covering the phone. After a while, Yi Xiaoya's anxious shout came from the other end of the phone. Xiao Chen, don't come over. You're no match for him. Before she could finish speaking, Yi Xiaoya's mouth was covered by someone. The middle-aged man's voice came from the other end of the phone again. How is it? Do you believe me now? Xiao Chen was silent for a while. He had heard Yi Xiaoya's voice just now, so it couldn't be fake. It seemed like the Devil Star sect had really been attacked. Alright, hurry up and send the things over. If you're late, you won't be able to see your wife. But don't worry, I won't let her die so easily. I'll definitely protect a little beauty like her that I can't help but feel pity for. The middle-aged man said in a strange tone, it's fine if you don't come. After my subordinates have fun with her, I'll slowly kill her. When that time comes, you'll be collecting her corpse. Ah. Listening to the middle-aged man's arrogant laughter, Xiao Chen clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Alright, just you wait. I'll be there soon. After quickly hanging up the phone, Xiao Chen packed his things. He couldn't be bothered to check out anymore. He threw the room card at the front desk and drove at full speed to the Devil Star sect. At this moment, the Devil Star sect was in a mess. Many disciples were lying on the ground in a mess. All of them had been frozen into ice. Their faces were ashen, and it was unknown if they were dead or alive. Yi Xiaoya and Qi Xiangmei had suffered varying degrees of injuries. The two of them were tied up and thrown to the ground. They glared at the intruders. I didn't expect that Xiao Chen to be such a devoted person. The moment he heard that something had happened to you, he immediately rushed over. How is it? Do you feel touched? The middle-aged man threw the phone on the table and looked at Yi Xiaoya with interest. He smiled evilly. Yi Xiaoya's mouth was gagged, so she couldn't speak. She turned her head away angrily, but she was a little worried. The Xiao Chen is too stupid and impulsive. The other party is a Demon King level expert. Why is he still so stubborn to come and save me? I hope he won't be too rash. It's best if he brings some helpers. However, other than being worried, Yi Xiaoya was also quite touched. She didn't expect Xiao Chen to rush over without hesitation when he heard that she was tied up. It seemed that she was quite important in his heart. Feng Qinyun, what is the meaning of this? Not only did you sneak attack the Demon Star sect, but you also dared to threaten the Demon sect master. Does your Extreme Ice sect want to be enemies with all the demon sects in the outer martial world? Qi Xiangmei didn't have her mouth gagged. She stared coldly at Feng Qinyun. She really didn't expect that Feng Qinyun, as the sect master of the Extreme Ice sect, would dare to openly rob the Demon Star sect. Moreover, Feng Qinyun, who was supposed to be a Demon General level expert, had actually become a Demon King level expert. According to the agreement between the outer martial world sects, Demon King level experts couldn't interfere with the grievances between sections. Otherwise, they would be regarded as the public enemy of the outer martial world. All sects could unite to kill that person. Actually, Qi Xiangmei's master was already half a step into the Demon King level. However, the Extreme Ice sect came too suddenly. Before Qi Xiangmei could send someone to inform her master, who was in seclusion in the back mountain, the battle was already over. Everyone was captured. Ha ha ha. Feng Qinyun laughed a few times. With a face full of disdain, he said condescendingly, "What demon sect master? Xiao Chen is just a stray dog now. He has now become the target of all the big sects in the outer martial world. I heard that even the sects in the inner martial world are getting restless. They want a share of the loot. I believe your Demon Star sect has also received the news, right?" "I don't know what you are talking about." However, I heard that all the sects that went to find trouble with Xiao Qin suffered great losses in his hands. I believe your subordinates didn't get any advantage, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have come to our Demon Star sect to cause trouble. Qi Xiangmei smiled faintly. Not only was there no fear on her face, but it was full of sarcasm. In fact, Qi Xiangmei had also received orders from her superiors to take the extraterrestrial meteoric iron and forging materials from Xiao Chen's hands. However, she considered the actual situation of her own sect, so she used the excuse that she couldn't find Xiao Chen's traces as an excuse. Later on, the other sects in the outer martial world suffered losses in the hands of Xiao Chen. At first, the news was still well hidden. Later on, all the sects that went out came back dejectedly. None of them succeeded, so the news could not be hidden anymore. Only then did everyone know that Xiao Chen was a tough guy who was not to be trifled with. After the news spread, the people in the Demon Star sect were a little shaken. After all, Xiao Chen's strength was there. Qi Xiangmei was definitely not a match for him. Moreover, no matter what, Xiao Chen was considered a nominal disciple of the Demon Star sect. If they directly used violence and snatched something from their own sect's disciple, they would be laughed at by other sects if word got out. Therefore they did not mention it again. In the end, the matter was left unsettled. We don't need you to care about our sect's matters. You should take care of yourself first. If Xiao Chen is timid and doesn't dare to come, or if he wants to play any tricks, you and your disciple as well as the entire Demon Star sect will be buried with him. Feng Qinyun's expression was very ugly. It was obvious that Qi Xiangmei had exposed his scars, and he was very unhappy. Depressed, Feng Qinyun mocked and ridiculed a few more times. He ordered his subordinates to lock up the two of them, and he sat there alone, sulking. Feng Qinyun originally did not want to directly become enemies with the Demon Star sect. The main reason was that two of the elders in his sect had suffered losses at the hands of Xiao Chen, and he could not personally deal with Xiao Chen. After reporting the situation to the Xianin sect, they only told him to wait for news and nothing else. After waiting for a few days, Feng Qinyun still did not receive the next step. This made him very puzzled. After thinking for a long time, Feng Qinyun subconsciously thought that it should be because the higher-ups were dissatisfied with his performance, so they gave him the cold shoulder. In this way he couldn't sit still anymore. One had to know that this mission was a rare opportunity for him to become an elder of the Xianin sect. If he did not grasp this opportunity well, he was afraid that it would be difficult for him to be recognized by the higher-ups in the future. If that was really the case, then what was the point of him working so hard to raise his level to the Demon King level? He could only show off in the outer martial arts world, but he could not enter the inner martial arts world. This was not the result that Feng Qinyun wanted. Therefore, Feng Qinyun began to rack his brains, thinking of other ways to win back the trust and attention of the Xianin sect. When he heard that Xiao Chen was a disciple of the Demon Star sect, an idea suddenly appeared in his mind. Since he could not go to the secular world to look for Xiao Chen, he might as well change his method and go directly to the Demon Star sect to cause trouble. Since the Demon Star sect is your sect, do you have the nerve to not come back to help? When you come back and see that the people of the Demon Star sect are all under our control, won't you still have to obediently hand over the things? Footsteps sounded and a person walked in from outside. Feng Qinyun looked up and saw that it was Elder Liao, who had just finished dealing with the Demon Star sect disciples. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.